Coming up on this episode of The Brain Drain Show.
You need to get a rock star bus for Tony. Yeah, Hawk, he dissed me bad times. I suffered a diss on TonyHawk.com. Tom Penny was there 2 years into skating. Saddam Hussein set fire to the oil wells and even rained oil a couple of times. We probably got really badly poisoned. Some jobs going at Rollersnakes. Packed up my stuff and I was like, all right, bye. I'm going to start this brand, Icon. He was like, I need a team manager. Despite being his worst employee, he gave me the opportunity to do it. All the photographers were wearing Nike Dunks, and then all the shop owners were wearing Nike Dunks. And they thought that they were the because they were going to Nike golf tournament. As far as I was concerned, they were not core. Everyone saw this downtrend, so we all had to take on like extra brands. I actually did Mighty Healthy, Element, Unabomber. Hilariously, I was working for Route 1 and Rollersnakes at the same time. Yeah, they don't realise that like basically all your kingpins and your heartogram BAMs and whatever, that stuff to the core skater, so we're not going to skate it. That is what sells to the wider public. That is what funds skate teams, skate tours, all that kind of stuff. No one is making any money off core skaters. He was like, right, I want that one, and that one, and I'll take 10,000 of each. Oh, that's 30,000 pairs of shoes. 130 grand was probably like my biggest year. Every muscle in my body is going, get out. Everything's trying to force out of me. Nearly at the hotel, one of those freight trains is coming. Ding, 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 ding. Gunned it straight under the barriers. Barely missed, crashing into poor old Kenny. I am Nick Warman, and you've been watching The Brain Drain.
Good evening and welcome to another great episode of The Brain Drain Show with me, Forde Brookfield. Joined to my left is my trusty co-host and one of my greatest friends of all time,
Toby Batchelor. Hello.
Toby Batchelor. And joined to our left is a very special Nick Warman. Round of applause in the studio audience, please.
Nice to see you.
Rotters. What an insult straight away. Thanks for coming. Should we go into...
Well, let's find out how he's been first, how things have
how's
been
things?
recently.
Everything all right?
Yeah, going pretty good. Doing a lot of slappies.
He's bought a couple of good things for the set, which we'll get into.
Yeah, a few bits here that I thought might be of interest. I cobbled together yesterday. And it's a bit weird being back in the belly of the beast.
Yeah, I bet, yeah. Just on the slappy thing, you did the half cab feeble. I need to learn that. And I've got a mental block. I go up to it and my body just like, no.
Yeah, because
I
want
to pop
what happens.
to get it round. I want to pop it, but you just go. Psst.
What I had to do is I learnt them on ramps years ago.
Yeah.
So what I have to do is literally go towards the curb, thinking you're on a ramp, you're on a ramp, you're on a ramp, and whoop, and then straight in, and then it works, and it's kind of a weird weight transfer. Yeah. I reckon I'll give it a go today.
I feel like the weight's good on those, like. Believe it or not, I've done a couple of those, but because you're turning, it's already bringing those wheels up to lock into place. But you can also do really good feeble grinds to fakies on ramps.
Yeah.
And I can't do that at all. It's a scary one.
Personal trainer Tim, he learned them the other week, and he seemed to do it pretty easy. And I was like, I really want to do that, but
I mean, last time I tried it here, it went pretty badly wrong first try, didn't it? And I kind of went into it half, and then missed. Ended up faking manualing, and somehow managed to completely belly flop on that.
And your watch got the you've had a fall alert.
Asked me if I'd had a fall, like I'm elderly, and like my back was like kind of went backwards, and so it messed
I've
me up
not had that on mine. Like I've taken on Sunday morning, I took a proper dead man across the curb slam.
Yeah,
really hurt.
Yeah,
but it didn't.
My watch is asking me if I've hurt myself all the time. Like I never used to slam because I always used to like just kind of like pussyfoot out of stuff, and I was always like super careful. And these days, I don't know if it's because I'm spending less time and I'm just like, got to get this done because I'm going to run out of energy.
Yeah.
I hit the floor so hard, and I had to lose like 10 kilos after I'd broken my arm and my ankle, because I was like, I'm so heavy now that when I slam, it hurts more and I'm breaking more stuff. So I went on a diet.
Nice.
I almost lost my shit on Saturday morning and
you said
Sunday
you nearly
morning.
focused your board, which I could never imagine.
I came so close to snapping a brand new board.
I get that when you're
so
younger, but
angry.
It must have driven you insane. What were you doing?
I went mad. Slappy crook,
right?
Nollie to board side to fakie.
So you got that.
So I did it about fourth try.
Yeah.
Just the first one I committed to and actually put on. Fine, did it. Got the camera out. No dice. Came in on Saturday morning, 7:15 in the morning, just to get in here.
And get it done.
Yeah.
And you took it. You got it.
Yeah, but I took a few Sams. But I got very close to just.
Do you reckon you could do it up the curb?
No, I can almost 100% say I will never do that trick again.
Yeah,
I did not enjoy it, but I wanted to just tick it off. Anyway, enough of that. What year did you start skating?
89. So November 89, I got a Natters kitten.
Your first board?
First board was a Natters kitten.
The same one that's over there, right?
Do you want me to go grab it?
Yeah, so that's...
Yeah, go grab it.
Yeah, sure.
Give us some context. Where were you?
So the reality is it was a Turbo 2. First board.
That was my first board.
Which I got from... my parents would have got it from a place called Dadabai, which was a toy shop in Bahrain in the Middle East where I was growing up.
Right. Dadabai?
Yeah.
Can you buy dads there? Because I've not got one.
That's a good point.
For fuck's sake.
Dadabai, you grew up in the Middle East?
That's the first time we used that. I haven't got a dad joke, actually, with good context and the build-up. Well done.
There you go.
Nice work.
Yeah, good work.
You grew up in the Middle East?
Yeah, so my parents moved out there when I was 3, and then my brother was born out there as well. And there was the skate boom of the late sort of like 80s. Everyone in school got into skating, and it was full on, and it was awesome for about a year, and then everyone realized it was hard and it hurt. They all stopped, and I was like this one lonesome skater left because my other buddy, he was 3 years older, and he moved away, and so I just skated by myself outside the front of my house for like about 2 or 3 years.
Same, that's what I did.
Yeah,
you just had to because there was nobody skated.
And I get to skate with people when I come over to the UK, and we had a house in Tame in Oxfordshire. And we'd go back there, and I'd skate with all the locals then. And but yeah, it was lonesome skating, so I don't mind skating by myself. It's quite all right.
I prefer it.
Sometimes when you got to learn a new trick, which is rare these days.
When you've got to learn a new trick.
You're like, I want this trick. You get out your little narcissism stand and you set up the camera and you just skate for 3 hours trying the same thing with no embarrassment.
Jim Harahan's got the right idea with the monopod tripod thing. He just brings an extra pair of shoes and he uses the shoe as the holder. Yeah. Because then you can...
No, I've just recently stepped up my tripod game. Yeah. So I had one of those gorilla ones, and they're all fiddling around with all the balls, and it flops over rubbish. Balls and flopping over, yeah. Sounds good.
Yeah. We'll get balls. Floppy balls, yeah.
This stand is almost like 3 bananas, and you can just sort of bend the metal into whatever shape, so you can curl it around bars or whatever. Yeah. And so yeah.
These hand gestures are giving Fraser loads of ammunition to just Photoshop in.
Definitely, yeah, that would be amazing.
All kinds of, and he's doing it for me now as well.
So do you have like a citizenship?
Dual citizenship?
Or did your brother have one because he was born there? Like, how would that work?
He could have got one if he remained in the country for 20 years and then gave up his British passport. But it's like, Middle East is like, you finished your job out there, you've got to leave the country within 48 hours. You are gone. If you... If you're driving around, driving's crazy over there. If you have...
Where exactly in the Middle East?
Bahrain. So people know about it now because of the Grand Prix.
Yeah.
Bahrain.
Yeah, there it is.
Between Saudi Arabia and Iran.
So you've got Qatar, which is the bigger... and then you've got Bahrain just there. And
so quite a small island.
Then, it's tiny. So it's 11 kilometres long and about 6 kilometres wide.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is it like a tax haven or something?
It is exactly that. Yeah, you're not paying tax on any of your income over there.
An island that small of its own country, right next to Saudi Arabia, and the UAE has to be.
Now it's pretty famous for its Bitcoin as well as the Grand Prix. So, it was pretty good for skating, but only in the winter. In the summer, it was too hot. You could barely move. So
how hot are we talking?
Late at night. Well, they would say on the news that it was going to be 38 degrees Celsius because that was the maximum that the manual labourers could work outside building all the shiny skyscrapers. The reality was it got to about 44, 45, same as Dubai, super humid. So you'd step out the door
and die.
Your grip tape would just become wet straight away. And then your clothes, the sweat wouldn't evaporate. So it'd be like you just like jumped in the pool and come out. Yeah. And then all of our skate clothes were completely like bleached because you'd wear them, hang them out, and the sun would just blast them. The only time that didn't happen was during the Gulf War. So this is 2 years into skating. Saddam Hussein set fire to the oil wells in Kuwait. And all of that smoke covers the whole of the Middle East. and it even rained oil a couple of times. It was nuts. So we probably got really badly poisoned, but
he was a bit of a when he said Saddam.
Yeah, he was a bit of
a pest.
Yeah.
But what he did for me is he kept the summer under 30 degrees Celsius. So I got to skate all summer, which is amazing.
Positives.
Yeah. You could tell that the weather was turning and it was getting a bit cooler in late November because you touched the coping on our mini ramp and the coping would be cool. Like prior to that, you could literally like burn yourself on anything.
Yeah,
I mean, it sounds like my actual hell.
Yeah, it's like actually like as a kid, I didn't know any different, and it was great. You like swimming and sailing and all that kind of stuff, and you're mixing with all sorts of different nationalities, which is why I've got this kind of hybrid weirdo accent that everyone thinks is posh, but it's not. It's just
hybrid
accent. Living abroad.
That's exactly what we've called him, haven't we? We're like, oh, Nick's coming on that hybrid posh sounding, not posh.
Indeed.
Hybrid weirdo.
So what was it like when you used to come back? You had a place in Oxfordshire, right? At 10?
Yeah, so my dad had bought a little like terraced house that we could come back to and
to escape the heat.
Amazing. Rather than hire a car, what he did is he went and he got like this car from the scrap heap, which is like a white Peugeot estate that looked like the Ghostbusters car.
Yeah.
And we'd like cruise around, like me seeing all the relatives. So we'd come back to the UK and then it was go and visit all the relatives and then hopefully, get to skate. Like, so down in Exeter, there was like Raging Sewers skate park.
Yeah.
Like, was just a couple of mini ramps. We'd go there and just cruise around.
So when that time when you came over to Oxfordshire, were you skating Oxford?
Yes.
So Oxford Wheels.
Yeah, it was. I don't know if it's called Oxford Wheels yet. It was the Cowley Road mini ramp that obviously like Mon and Sean and all those dudes had set up. So initially it was a 20 foot wide, 4 foot high mini ramp, and that area was sketchy. Like it was like, so I was like 14 and we'd take the bus into from Tame into Oxford, and we had a dude try and mug us with a knife. We just ran. We had like, I don't think you're.
That's good advice. I think if someone pulls a knife,
you're not sticking around, especially when you're 14 and from Middle East. You're just like super cosseted life. It's super safe out there, and then suddenly you're confronted with like dudes with knives and stuff. Mm-hmm. Just run. But then it was just a really rough area, and we got set upon by one lad was demanding 10p from my brother. My brother was 3 years younger. He was like, no 10p for you. And anyway, his older brother came and we had like a good old fight on the ramp, and you had
10p.
Yeah. And you had there was, I don't know if you're allowed to call them tramps anymore.
Yeah.
Is a tramp allowed?
Homeless people.
I don't know if he was homeless. He was just
a scumbag.
A boozy scumbag. There was quite a lot of those dudes around the area.
You can call a scumbag if they're a scumbag.
That seems fair.
He sounds like a scumbag.
Yeah, so there were a lot of those dudes around. So it was a super sketchy area at the time. But there was like, you'd see, obviously Tom Penny was there doing his, he'd blunt slide from one side of the ramp to the other, but he'd do it in a way where he didn't seem to carve. He didn't need to carve to get the length of slide. It would just be like up, right across the whole ramp.
He's a magician, isn't he?
Yeah. Even when he's 14, he had like a cider bottle, so big old cider bottle. And there was another lad called
like those
Scamp.
3 litre ones.
Yeah, big old
white
beast.
lightning or
Scamp.
Yeah, he was his mate at the time, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was pretty rad as well. Yeah. He was really funny. I think he insulted me and probably told me like my balls needed to drop or something like that, even though he was probably younger than me. But
nice.
Yeah, he's a funny little lad. But like he was cool. And then there was Justin Parker. Yeah. There was one, I just remember there was like 4 guys who just really shredded there all the time. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But yeah, that was, and I'd go into like SS20 was definitely the first skate shop I ever went to over here.
Yeah, it was a good shop back in the day, wasn't it? It was really good. Yeah. It was like Aladdin's cave, and it was just full of shit.
You get the, you go in to get the latest video, and they'd have had an original copy in, but I think the original copies were about 20 quid. Yeah. So they just like record a load of like 5 quid like blanks, And so we'd have like virtual reality and all those kind of like amazing Plan B videos.
Yeah. So what sort of time scale is that then? When were you like? So virtual reality was 93 or 4, wasn't it? Or was it?
No, I'm going to say 92.
Maybe it was earlier.
And they came out in really quick succession.
Yeah.
There was the first one
questionable,
and then virtual reality came out because it still had like Mike Carroll and Rick Howard and those dudes. So it's pre-Girl.
Yeah.
So
92, 93.
Bootlegs from SS20. So I think the whole industry was like that back then.
Do you reckon? I don't know. Like I remember whenever we'd get VHSs like Next Gen H Street or Planet Earth, they always had a sticker on it that said imported by Phase 7.
Ooh.
So
maybe it wasn't. Maybe I just assumed everyone.
I mean, I'm assuming that was a genuine one, but
yeah.
But
I remember one of the ones.
Our skate store was savvy to doing anything like that. They just probably wanted to stick to the rules.
Well, it's kind of cool because everyone could get it for a £5, and then everyone saw it, and everyone was super into Plan B, and then we were straight in buying Plan B decks. And
well, it kind of works, doesn't it? I mean, you know, it's bootlegging, isn't it? It's just that kind of thing. But I mean, we didn't have the internet then, did we? So you couldn't just watch it on the internet when it came out. No, we didn't.
And not having the internet like had serious consequences living in Bahrain, because you're effectively out of the loop of what's cool. So when I first came back with like a board like this, like a Natas Kitten, boards were already starting to change quite a lot.
Yeah.
I had a tail saver on, nose bone, rails.
Yeah.
Everyone else was kind of like evolving away from all that stuff.
You were a loser.
Oh, I was. Yeah, it got worse. It got worse.
Sounds like my board now, to be honest.
Yeah, it does.
It got worse. I'm surprised that the lads in Tame actually like took me under their wing, because not only
they probably felt sorry for you.
Yeah, I was rocking a geek board, weird accent, and then to top it off, because we didn't know what was cool and what was in style, I didn't have a shell suit. I had jams. I had like starry jams. I've got the photo here.
What's he talking about?
What's a jam?
Jams? They're board shorts, I suppose. They're like elasticated board shorts. So I had them, like a red Steve Caballero one. But worse, by far worse, I had a mullet. Because
sounds like you'd be well fit in skating perfectly now.
Yeah,
with that.
Awesome now, but back then
I think you were just ahead of the crowd with that. You know?
Honestly, I came back with that mullet. So you had the hairspray, keep it like right across, like out here, like I thought it was rad, and everyone had step haircuts. You know, those with the big old, like they basically somehow managed to make it like a wedge quite thick out of the back.
I wasn't expecting to have so much talk about haircuts in this episode, but I'm not against it.
Yeah, well, considering my hair's abandoned me. Waxing lyrical.
When did it start changing then from being a complete and utter loser that these guys took under your wing to not being a loser?
I think I kind of cottoned on pretty quick that I needed to learn pressure flips, get off the early grabs, although early grabs are awesome and I'll never leave them alone. Yeah. Don't you?
Was you living in the UK full, like at this point? Had you moved back or was you still going between? And how often did you come and go?
So Easter holidays and summer holidays would come. So everyone would basically, all the expats would leave Bahrain in the summer because it's so hot. You just don't want to be there. The swimming pools were like a bath. It was just so hot.
Yeah.
So everyone would come back and they'd all go their separate ways. And so I'd get back and I'd get back to Tame and I'd phone up like this dude Matt Doherty and be like, "Hey, I'm back in the UK. Like,
and my mullet's looking good.
Yeah, no.
And my shorts are bright."
I've been to CNA. I've got myself my waist size 48 jeans now, and I'm like super baggied out, like, and so I contact those dudes and we'd go and skate behind the co-op skate car parks.
Yeah.
Which was awesome.
When did you permanently move back over here?
So I finished my GCSEs and there was no higher education there.
So you did those in Bahrain?
Yeah, did the GCSEs, which were still UK GCSEs. Yeah. And we just had to do, because the time difference was 3 hours ahead, we had to just sort of like start them later in the day. Yeah. Did them, came back to UK, and I was offered all these like kind of like public schools, and they were like, and you wear this uniform, you go to chapel on a Sunday, and I was like, no, hell no, I'm not interested in this. So I went to Rutland College, which is in Oakham, so it's only 30 miles down the road. Well, it's a nice town, but there was nothing to skate there. First day, so I've come back from my lovely cosseted expat life, nice big bedroom and stuff like that, and I get to this place. I'm in the same room with five other dudes. One of like everyone was like smoking weed, mushroom speed every night, so everyone was like off their faces, and that was the only place that we had to go and skate. So there's nothing to skate in Oakham, so we had to get on the train and go to Stamford.
I think there was the old skate park.
It was called Skell Skates, and it was actually, they got an old swimming baths pool, and they'd stuck a big rear unit ramp in the deep end and a smaller rear unit in the and then we had just some really cruddy flat banks, but yeah, it was a good spot.
Rear unit was the ramp people back in the day when there's still plenty of them. Yeah. As you go into Southend-on-Sea on the I think it's the A127, there's been a rear unit mini ramp in this field on the left as you go towards Southend for as long as I can remember.
Survived.
Like from the late 80s, it's still there.
I wonder if the one in St Anne's is still there.
Maybe.
Like that was brutal. So that was like 6 foot high, and like BMXers had like used it so much that the coping had flattened and become square.
Yeah.
And the kids around there were so gnarly. Like, because I was at uni up near that way. These kids were like, there's like 10 of them, and they're like throwing apples down at the park. And I was like, I'm going to say something. I'm not going to say something. And in the end, I was like,
now they're throwing knives.
I was like, stop throwing apples. And they were like, well, fuck your mum. And I was like, more gay. It's like, whoa. So, yeah.
Just take them apples.
Yeah. What was the, when did it start changing then into, when would you say you started taking skateboarding more seriously and picking up some sponsors here and there? What was the process after you'd moved back? When did it start kind of barrel rolling?
I was never good enough to be sponsored. I've always kind of floated along at the kind of relatively okay, competent level, I'd say.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
You know how it rolls, you love it.
I'm saying I agree in terms of people that are okay at skating become filmers.
Yeah.
That's where I went.
Yeah, definitely. You still want to keep involved with what's going on.
You still want to upgrade your skating a little bit, but it's a very slow process.
Well, it was
filming.
Basically what happens, it depends on where you are. So you start off in the Middle East, it's super isolated. You think, I'm pretty good at skating. Yeah, I'm all right at this. I can ollie and can do some flips. Get back to UK and you mix with some kids from the UK and you're like, okay, I'm not very good at skating. Desperately try and catch up with them, get better, kind of get about to their level and think, yeah, I'm pretty decent.
I'm okay.
Then you move to a city like Nottingham and you go, I suck. I'm never going to get that good. And that is definitely when I got more into filming. Again, I'd say for narcissistic reasons. I always just wanted to film my own tricks and stuff like that. And then I just started filming everyone who was around me. So all the Nottingham guys. And
who was around the Nottingham scene then? What year we're talking? Mid-90s?
So I moved to Nottingham in I think 96, 97 for uni.
Good time of skating that.
It's amazing because we had the Broad Marsh banks.
Yeah.
When they were
the
good,
proper banks. Yeah, they were really awesome.
There's not a single bit of that bank left now.
No.
There's nothing.
No, it's sad because they were absolutely amazing.
Just a spot full of ledges.
Yeah. But you had the key guys at the time were guys like Al Rushbrook,
amazing,
John Weatherall, Brad Garner, Craig Smedley. Yeah, he was out for a bit and then he kind of reappeared.
That would have been his robbing bikes and cars era when he disappeared.
Yeah, probably.
It's kind of his story, but I suppose he smoked a lot of weed and it made him quite paranoid, and he had to take some time out and got himself together, and then sort of reappeared whilst I was filming the first Icon video, and he was just on it from then on.
Yeah.
So
he's always been on it, hasn't he? He's a machine, Smedley, and he's still got it today.
Yeah.
There's very few people in this country that are still going at it as hard as he is.
I saw he'd done a line at Snenton Market.
I saw that, yeah.
And it was amazing. Yeah. And I think he gets better and better. I think
like a fine wine.
I always wanted to kind of say to him, you could easily be like a day one song type character in the UK, because he's so talented with like the flips and the manuals and holding it and all that kind of stuff. But he also wanted to be able to chuck himself down big stairs and stuff, which he was more than capable of doing.
Yeah.
So he gets up to all sorts, but yeah, he's still incredible.
What was going on? You were living in Nottingham?
Living in Nottingham, and I had just started uni. I was doing a combined sciences course at Trent, and I was in a chemistry lesson.
Yeah.
And my buddy Chris Cartwright, who was like a skater and snowboarder, he came in and he was like, there's some jobs going at Rollersnakes. And I just packed up my stuff and I was like, all right, bye, straight into town. And got myself like...
When the shop was in Nottingham as well?
Yeah.
Maid Marian Way.
It was on the corner of Maid Marian Way.
So this is your getting into the industry?
This is me getting into the industry. I was already relatively known to those guys, like Mike, because I was in and out of that place. I was desperate for a pair of DC Syntax in black, white, red. Like, I was fixated on them.
I had a pair of those. I actually mail ordered them from Rollersnakes.
You know what?
I'm not even taking the piss. I did.
I've now found out why I never managed to, because I'd go in and I'd be like,
because they knew you were a loser who had plastics on their board for a long time.
You rotten. Basically, what was happening is I was popping in and going, have you got them? And they'd be like, yeah, they'll be in about 2 weeks. And off I go. Well, it was because I was a US 10. Who else is a US 10? Michael Wright, the designer from Rollersnakes.
Mike Wright.
He kept bloody buying them. So I didn't get a pair because of him. But it did mean that I was in and out constantly, and I'd put in my my application and cobbled together some kind of really dubious CV, because basically I had no experience other than a month at a surf shop in Cornwall where I got paid like £1.80 an hour to sort of be there and deal with tourists.
Good times.
Sell them sandals. Yeah, what a treat. So eventually, after being in and out of there constantly, I think they relented and they gave me the job.
You wore them down.
Yeah.
What was the job? What was the advertised job, and what did it end up actually being?
Okay, well, it was part-time. So it was 2 days a week in the shop. And I think very quickly I ended up working like 4 or 5 days, still on a part-time wage, but I deserved that only part-time wage because I'm pretty sure, the worst Rollersnakes employee of the time.
Don't say it.
No.
I already knew it was good. I
think I might win. So there was another guy at the time.
Why were you so bad?
Right, okay. So Johnny Morrow.
Yeah.
Right, so
Big
the
up
lead
Johnny
singer, lead singer of Iron Monkey.
What a band.
It was a beast. It was
Rest
amazing.
in peace, Johnny
And he
Morrow.
did all sorts of other stuff, like hip hop stuff, and like he actually mixed the music for the slam section on the first Icon video. He and I used to have laziness competitions because there were these round cushions.
Bet Paul's going to be really stoked to hear this.
I think he knows.
All right.
I think he knows.
What's he going to do? Fire him?
Yeah. I don't think I got a Christmas bonus that year, and I think I probably deserve not to. So like there were these round cushions, and we basically lie across them, and do as little work as possible. What was the other laziness competition I did with him? I don't know.
Didn't you say there was something about like maybe I've heard it from someone else, tried to just avoid any contact with customers?
Michael told you that, and he's absolutely right, because what would happen is you'd get stuck in the rollerblade room, which we called the Zoom room of doom. And the reason for this is you get in there, and rollerblading was so popular at the time, you could not get out, and you'd just be serving all these 14-year-old kids with size 15 feet that smell, trying to sort them out with rollerbladers with entitled angry mums.
Yeah.
Kid had rollerbladed through some mud, and then, look here, you silly little man, these wheels don't roll anymore. That was actually a quote. I had a customer say that to me.
Look here, little man.
You silly little man. And I was just like, well, your kids run through like mud in their rollerblades. So you got into that room and you were stuck. So obviously I tried to keep out of it as much as possible. The other thing I was doing was desperately trying to keep my legs as fresh as possible so I could go skate straight after. Mm-hmm. So 19-year-old me was a bad employee, and so that's why I know what to watch out for.
So when did working at Rollersnakes turn into shoe stuff?
And just before we get onto that as well, there's only one pair of shoes that I've longed for in my life as much as you wanted those DC Syntax.
Yeah.
And it's right on the wall there.
It's the Adio V1 Bam. They're my size. But the one that I wanted, I'm sure, like I said earlier, they came out in all black with a kind of like a little bit of a gum sole.
Yeah.
That was the only reason that I bought D3s a year ago in all black with gum sole, because it's the closest thing I could get to that shoe. But that shoe was gorgeous.
You bought some D3s?
OG gave them to me.
Oh, okay.
So I said bought. But yeah, an all black shoe with like a gum sole on the bottom, it just reminds me of shoes at that time when I got into it.
They'd probably be a couple of seasons in. This was the second season of them. So you had like a black slate, you had a navy yellow, and you
what
had
was
like
the original colourway? Do you remember?
Yeah, black slate, navy yellow, and I think there was a white one. And then these came out in the black royal, and this is when it really went off.
We should probably let the listeners know about the Patreon that we're starting. Do you want to give them some information about that?
Yes, I will. So from as little as £2 a month, you can become a Patreon member and get access to uncensored, uncut episodes, behind the scenes shiz, bonus OG episodes. What does that mean, Forde?
Like the episodes that we used to, where it was just me and Toby doing reviews, fan mail, and anything else in between. And Toby's favourite, Stinker of the Week.
Stinker of the Week is back, but only on Patreon episodes. You will also get outtakes, early access to new merch when it launches, general skate nerdery, and much, 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 much more.
Well, I thought they looked suspiciously like the Coston 2. Suspiciously.
I mean, that was an incredibly popular shoe, so you could see if people were copying it.
But like this shoe, like you'd be wearing this, and kids in the street would just be like, he's got the Bam V1s. It was like the recognition for them in the street was unbelievable. So,
which must have been amazing for you being involved in the industry with that brand at the time. How did Adio come about in the first instance?
Let's go on to that, and then we'll get on to
that. So,
and then we'll do open bids for the shoes at the end of the show.
So I started off in the shop, and I have to tell you about some of the shenanigans in the shop. I can't leave this out because it's embarrassing for me and just amazing story. So we went through a phase. This is Jackass times, obviously. We went through a phase of like being well into lighting farts, and I got really good at it. Really good. Different flames, different denims, like the way the gas was spread up and the flame. Amazing. And
what's the optimum clothing to wear, and what's the position you get in
I'd
to
say
light
a pair of jeans. You basically want to be lying on your back with your legs up in the air,
sunrise position,
with your arm tucked around the back of your leg, and then just the lighter right in front. And what you'll find is your butthole isn't where you expect it to be. It's like a little bit further away. Like
you're watching the Brain Drain show right now, talking about butthole placements.
Thank you for tuning in.
I think it's quite important, because if you get this wrong, all you're going to do is burn your taint. Like, so you got to pay attention to where your butthole is. You work that out after a few misfires, and that's what you don't want to do.
There's so many quotes coming out of this story already.
If you misfire, all you've done is fart in front of everyone, and they're just like, well, that was disgusting. You have to hit flame.
But surely it's not also just about where your butthole is. It's where the trajectory of the fart is going to disperse.
Gas. It depends on your physiology, whether you're producing a lot of methane or ethane, God knows. Like, but you got to get this sort of thing right. Otherwise, it's just disgusting instead of hilarious. So there I am. I've got well into this. Like, doing
your legs are in the air.
Doing it at home, loads. Like me and my brother, my business partner from Supereight, Sam, and Gaz Jenkins. And my poor wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, sat in my lounge.
With you lot, just there.
All the fight lighting. She's just wondering what the hell she's doing with her life. It's unbelievable. She's still with me. So
she must have been very patient.
She was. And we were watching a lot of South Park with Terrence and Philip doing all the fighting. Like, that was our first date. We went to watch the South Park movie with Terrence and Philip doing that fart scene, and I was crying with laughter. So that's where I was mentally at the time,
and physically.
So what happened? This doing all these farts led to two unfortunate incidents. Number one, I kind of started playing fast and loose where I was doing this. I was desperate to show the guys in the shop. So we had a big counter at the Rollersnakes in Nottingham with all the stickers in and all the wheels and all that kind of stuff. And I was on my back, legs in the air, lighting fart, lit this fart, looked up, and a customer is literally looming over me like someone's dad. And he was like, "Hi, do you help me?" Yeah, no. Dread to think what. Oh my God. So this is part of the reason why I was one of Rollersnakes' worst employees. Second incident related to farts is at the time I've been doing some filming, starting to put stuff together, and Ben Powell was doing Viewfinder at the time, and he'd asked for some Nottingham footage. So I cobbled together some bits like...
Big up Ben Powell.
Oh, yeah. He's the man.
Absolutely big up Ben Powell.
He actually was the first person I ever dealt with at Rollersnakes. He sold me Underachievers 3 whilst wearing a Hawaiian shirt and having sort of like this mad ginger hair that kind of reminded me almost like of Wolverine. Like, he was cool as fuck. And he sold me that. Like, he sold my mate Savannah Slammer when he should have been selling something from 1992, and they were bummed, but that was funny. But yeah, so I'd sent him this footage, and he gets back to me, and he's like, "Thanks for the footage, Nick. There's a few bits on there and stuff, but like towards the end, it just kind of like peters out into slow motion of you and your brother Mark laughing and lighting farts in slow motion, just like flames just licking slowly up, and the cow kind of wah 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 kind of noises."
Yeah.
So I embarrassed myself in front of Ben Powell, who I didn't know at the time. I embarrassed myself in front of customers. Like, it got out of control, but it was fun times.
Right, can we get the lighter out now? Because you're about to embarrass yourself in front of all our listeners. Let's get Nick.
And that's how you got into the industry.
I've got my microbiome under control these days. Everything's much more back to normal.
And that's how you got into the industry of footwear.
Right. So
we're getting there.
We are getting there. So I'm working at Rollersnakes. Paul comes in one day. He's like, "I'm going to start this brand Icon, and we're going to do like really well priced boards." Mike and a guy called Luke Wenban were doing the designs for it, and he was like, "I need a team manager," and I was just like, "We're in Darley Abbey by this point, so this is like."
Icon was a Rollersnakes brand.
Oh yeah, right.
I never knew that.
As far as I know, it's Paul's idea.
I don't think we mentioned that on the Smedley one. I never knew.
Yeah, so we were in Darley Abbey at the time, so I think the skate shop in Nottingham was gone, and we were then in Darley Abbey, and it was on the 5th floor.
Like in the mills.
Yeah, and it was next to a guy called Steve Walker, and he was doing the distribution for Porn Star Clothing, which is massive at the time, and it was like, said masturbating's not a crime, and everyone was like super into it. So.
We found some blank Porn Star clothing tees, didn't we?
Did you?
On 4 in the warehouse, I think, like last year.
Yeah.
Good quality stuff too.
Yeah, well, I mean, that dude smashed it. As far as I remember, he did really well with it. So, there was Planet Distribution on one side, Rollersnakes on the other, up 5 stories of stairs, like super impractical, but like we made it work. And Paul was like, "Let's have a team manager for Icon," and I was like, "I would love to do that. That'd be amazing." For some reason, despite being his worst employee, he gave me the opportunity to do it, which is amazing. Thanks, Paul. So I then went on to start filming the guys, and I was filming Scott Underdown.
Amazing.
Ian Reese.
Yep, Reese the Piece.
Reese the Piece.
Adam Fletcher, who's now gone on to
Handsome
be,
Adam.
Let's say, a bit of a gay icon. That dude fucking crushed it. Like, he took that focus he had on skateboarding into like getting hench and being on the cover of magazines and stuff, and like he's done really well. It was amazing. And then Brad Garner was the other guy on the team. So there's 4 dudes, and we started filming. We just like hung out together all the time. Went around in my little Polo Fox everywhere, like filming as much as we could. And it was like back in those days, like especially with me, I didn't like have like, "Oh, I can't film in a skate park. I can't do this. I just film in whatever."
Yeah.
And it was on like a Hi8 camera. I don't think it was even like, it definitely wasn't digital. I had this thing called an Amiga Buzz.
Yeah, I remember those.
Which would go into the back of your computer and capture video at 49 kilobytes per frame. So you basically got a fuzzy JPEG, and it would capture 14 of them a second. So it's just enough to perceive movement. It's just a step up from like, you know, the old style kind of like slide.
It was like around that time, it was so hard to get a computer that could handle anything video based.
I would end up with eye strain because I'd be because it was called Dreamwave was the stuff, the program you used with it, and it was dreadful. And it would drop frames. And so you'd be watching it and your eyeballs would be aching because you just watched the same sort of like piece of video like 30 times over and keep reprocessing it until it was all
It was
right.
really, really hard work. I remember when I was doing the Wisdom video, just trying to get a hard drive that could spin fast enough to play back standard definition footage without dropping out when you want to export to master. God, it was impossible.
See, I didn't even know about any of that stuff.
You just couldn't do it. It's just the hardware wasn't there yet.
No.
You know, Max was slowly, Firewire was coming in and things like that. But, I mean, probably some people could do it, but I always struggled with that shit.
I just had my computer from that I had for uni days, and I was just like, you know, I didn't even know about the hard drive being able to keep up with it, like let alone anything else. And, you know, you'd have problems with like, you'd slow motion things and then suddenly like you get this ghosting where like frame A and B would get in front of each other.
Yeah, because it was interlaced frames, wasn't it? So it was just blur.
On the internet, you just like ghosting, this is a bit of a problem. And like straight away it's on a forum and you sort it. Yeah. Back in those days, like you had no idea. And it's just like fiddling around for weeks trying to work it all out.
Yeah, very time consuming.
It was. But Craig appeared at that time and he just did a couple of tricks on the first Icon video in the summer, and then I think it was the year 2000. We were at a non-stop Christmas party, and he was like,
"Big up, Robin."
Oh yeah, Robin's the best. He actually works for us now.
Oh yeah, awesome. Tim told me that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
like
nice.
he's
That's
got
good.
all sorts of other stuff going on.
Yeah.
But he gives us a couple of days a week, which is great, and he's got like all these really old crazy stories about people coming through the shop. So yeah, he had non-stop, and that was a super legit store. Like that was really cool. That was part of that ecosystem on St James's Street where you had non-stop and you had Rollersnakes, you had West Side Bar, and you had various you had Warehead Records, and it was this whole ecosystem. So even though you had two shops on the same street, it actually made it better because you got more people coming through, and it created a community. So the area really thrived. And then as they all dropped off, I think that's one of the things that, you know, eventually led to Robin having to shut up shop was there was just nothing left on that street. So no reason for people to come down. I've gone off.
Oh, no, it's fine. We had Wurs along.
When the fuck did you get Adio?
We had Wurs along and he went off on tangents.
Yeah, I bet. So I'm team manager for Icon. I've got this. Craig has come and said, I really want to turn pro.
You're at the Christmas party.
Christmas party, non-stop Christmas party. Craig says, I want to skate for Icon and be pro. And I was like, oh, that sounds really fucking cool. Like, let's do that. So I then spent like the next kind of like 6 months to a year just like with Craig, like filming like almost every single day. We're out constantly. Like, and it's mad because you'll just say to Craig, hey, how about you kickflip into this blunt and then kickflip out again, and he'll be like, okay, and he'll just.
He was always really good like that. That he would take input from filmers. You should try this.
Yeah,
and that is one thing. Mentioning no names. If they would just fucking listen and take a bit in from people who have been around a bit longer and giving you some ideas.
Got a bit of insight. Yeah.
But the thing with Smedley...
Just bleep out his name.
The thing is with Smedley is he said on his own episode as well that he wasn't a skater that would go out to film, he'd go out to skate. So he really thrived off someone saying, why don't you try this?
He was great for being able to suggest stuff. So I'd be like, hey, okay, on the Mini, why don't you do a frontside flip, come back and do a switch frontside flip? And he did it within like a few goes. Like, so he was always amazing to skate with, and he was also really, really great. He understood sponsorship, so he's
a good team player.
He's amazing. So he'd wear the t-shirts, like he'd wear the shoe. You know, it doesn't sound like much to us, does it?
It fucking is.
Like industry wide, that's a real problem with just like the industry's like, hey, buy our t-shirts. Okay, cool. Are any of your riders wearing them? Nah. Are they ever going to? Nah. But like the kids will buy them. Why? Because they don't.
I mean, it's fucking hell. We could go on. Let's get the
go off, Queen. How did you fucking get to Adio?
We're nearly there. So,
and then you two can go into your talk.
So Craig's killing it, and he's like, I would really love a footwear sponsor. So I was like, okay, well, so I got what I had of his video part together for Equilibrium, this guy here, and I basically sent it out to as many distributors as I possibly could, so like Shiner, Phase 7 at the time, and like K2, which was based in Redditch, had literally just started distributing Adio. It had been going through Slam City Skates because they were a distributor at the time, and K2 had taken it back because it belonged to them. Mm-hmm. And what was weird is that their base in Redditch was Shakespeare Fishing. So I'd get all these boxes of stuff and people would be like, oh, you're super into fishing. I was like, absolutely not. This is full of skate shoes. But so Shakespeare K2 had taken it on, and there was this guy there called Ed Seymour, who was a ex pro windsurfer. I think he's a pro windsurfer. And he got back to me and said, oh yeah, like Craig's skating well, we need to put a team together. Do you want to come up and meet? So I was like 21, 22, and I went up to meet him, and I talked through everything with him and spouted off about skateboarding as you do, and he could obviously clearly see that I was really into it, super nerdy about it. Mm-hmm. And he said, well, it sounds like you know what you're talking about. Do you want to be our team manager? I was like, well, obviously like the Icon team manager thing, it wasn't like a paid role or anything. It was just something that
it was a perk of a job, like it was an add-on.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, exactly right. And I think like it's those sort of things that you've got to do in the skate industry if you want to kind of like get into it, get ahead. You have extra strings to your bow. You don't just kind of like expect everything to be handed to you. Like you guys doing all sorts of like really interesting stuff.
And now look at us. We get free Supereight merch. So everything. Yeah. We're working.
Crushing it.
That's it.
So
and free Bam shoes.
So he said, nice try. Tell you what, you can take a nice picture of them.
I got one. Producer Fraser got me slotting out on one.
Can you put that photo up here now? There we go.
I'm not putting it up.
So he said, you sound like you know what you're talking about. Do you want to be our team manager? Of course I fucking do. That sounds amazing.
And what year was this?
So this is 2000.
It's coming to the Adio boom.
Summer 2000.
Timing is key.
The Adio boom.
The timing was fascinating because at the time they only had 5 models. They had like the Fremont, the Omen. They had like a Jeremy Ray model. Mm-hmm. I think the Steve Barrett and Jamie Thomas ones are gone, but there was one called the 50/50 as well. They only had about 5 models.
Did you walk out of there that day with a load of swag?
I didn't.
What?
No, because they hardly had anything in stock. I got one pair of Fremonts, which was a kind of basic shoe, which was not cool at the time, but I was still like, whatever. Like, this is like free shoes. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And I'd been wearing a DC jumper at the time, and he was like, you'll never wear that again. And I was like, you're absolutely right. That's done.
Yes, sir.
So whilst I was there, I just finished uni. I'd done my degree, and I was like, I need to get a job. Mm-hmm. And they told me with my degree, I could earn good money, but it wouldn't be until I'd done something like 10 years of voluntary work, like planting fences and stuff in Vietnam, and getting like, my job would have involved like environmental impact assessments. If you're going to build a road, you work out how many newts are going to be like dehomed and stuff like that. And,
sounds shit.
Yeah, it was not going to be fun. So
I did promo work for a company once that they just wanted to advertise how they were keeping loads of little newts alive. Yeah. That was at the side of motorways. And
it's a big deal. You can stop a whole project with a newt.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
how?
They're a protected species. So you've got to protect their little homes.
It's the same with Avi and his Mrs. Gemma. They'll go to survey like I think the last thing he did is he surveyed a football pitch or something, or football stadium around where he lives.
Yeah.
And because there was like 2 bats in there that are an endangered species of bat, they can't get rid of that football stadium because that's where they've chose their home to be. So it has to stay there until they optionally move.
Amazing.
Which is crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. I love a bat.
Yeah, I do love a good bat.
So
Toby loves a bat.
I'm gonna tell you a little fact about bats. They're called Chiroptera. That's their Latin name, and it means hand wing. And it's because their hands are effectively attached like this, and they just flap about.
I bought a ceramic vampire bat hanging in the garden at the weekend. Nice. Down the end of the garden, just hanging off the fence.
You sometimes stare at it just when you get home, don't you?
I was looking at it last night. I was like, yeah, big up bat.
So yeah,
nice.
Right.
So where are we? We're nearly at it. Okay,
so you got the team manager.
Give me a team manager, and I've said, "Do you have anything else going?" And he was like, "Well, we use sales agents." I didn't know what a sales agent was. So a sales agent is somebody who purely earns commission. You're not like a rep where you're supplied with a van and subsistence.
A wage.
And a wage. You're just here's the samples.
Sell as much as you
can.
Get
out there.
And whatever you sell, you make on.
Yeah. And you basically make between 8 and 10%, depending on what your deal you've worked out. And so he was like, here's the samples. It was a few pairs of shoes. Go out in the Midlands and see how you can do. So straight out to see Robin at Nonstop. He was my first ever account, and he bought a couple of hundred pairs. Because skateboarding was smashing it back then. So even though Adio was not at its by anywhere near its peak at that point, it was still, skateboarding was big enough that they're like, yeah, okay, well, I'll have 200 pairs of these.
And you were still at Rollersnakes at this time as well?
I had finished at Rollersnakes to concentrate on finishing my degree, but I was still doing the team manager stuff, so I was still in and out constantly.
Okay. Just for time reference.
So
Robin bought loads.
And I was like, okay, well, if he's bought 200 pairs, and they're £30 a pair, then that's £6,000, and I get 10% of that, 600 quid. Holy shit! So I was like, right, it's fucking on.
It's on.
So I just went to every single skate shop in the country and visiting them. You get out your wares, and you kind of have to keep the attention of the shop owner, because there's all sorts of stuff going on. There's kids trying to go, oh, what's this? And customers picking up your stuff and trying to buy it. People trying to buy your sample bag. There's all sorts of distractions, and you have to let's get this done. And at the time, you would write the orders there and then. And I had this little printer that I then print out a little copy of his.
Did they give you that
order
as well? Did you buy that?
No, I bought everything. It was just
after that first order, you were like, I'm doing it.
Yeah, so I was down to Air Circus in Cheltenham.
Yeah.
Eventually, I think Rollersnakes. I think we started. Came and saw Paul and Rob Johnson from 42.
Fucking love Rob Johnson.
Yeah, he's
one of the nicest people.
Right, dude.
Yeah, so he was the buyer, but Paul would do a lot of the buying as well, and I think it was probably maybe a year into it, it was really starting to get going. I held back from going into, I was so core. I could have made so much more money. Multipliers more money than I did, because I was so core. I was only the core stops. So Mischief, Native, Note, Black Sheep. These were the kind of stores that I was dealing with, because I was I'm going to support these dudes. They're rad. Casino was another one.
Yep, Leicester.
And then so I dealt with all those guys, and then I went into Snakes. Paul was into it. I was actually a little bit nervous to ask him. I was is he just going to tell me to bog off? Why? I'm his worst employee. But yeah, it immediately started to do really well. By the time it went into Paul, Jackass was thoroughly out there, and MTV
CKY series were pretty
all that
big
kind
as
of
well
stuff
from 99 onwards.
So I eventually went into Route 1, but I'd held off Route 1 for a really long time, because as far as I was concerned, they were not core at all.
Are they?
No, they're nice guys.
Yeah, they seem nicer now.
And Richard, the owner, he's really, really smart guy, really switched on, really nice guy. They're kind of doing their own thing. They seem to be aiming more at the student market these days. I'm not entirely sure. But no, I wouldn't say, they're certainly not core, but they do a great job with their stores. Yeah. Like, to me, they're a little bit like Zoomies is in the States or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't think that.
Well, Zoomies is full of fucking idiots.
They do a really good job.
I've been to a couple of Zoomies in the States and definitely fucking... It's
a mall store, isn't it?
It's a different breed there. At least Route 1, I know a couple of people, skateboarders that work at each one.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. They sponsor loads of dudes, and they employ.
If they're sponsoring skaters from the scene to put money in the pocket, then it's good.
Yeah, absolutely. So they've kind of evolved a lot over the years, but at the time, they're certainly not core. And I took some serious shit from the core stores for going in there. They were not happy. So
you went to visit him.
That was going into Route 1, let alone putting it into somewhere like Shoe. I never put it into Shoe. Now I could have. I think I'd made a fortune doing that.
Probably would have made a fortune for like 18 months or something, or 2 years.
For as long as the skate boom lasted, and it kind of started to trail off in about 2007 when the dunk started to make an appearance, and suddenly all the photographers, we take them out on like tours and stuff, and all the photographers are wearing Nike Dunks, and then all the shop owners are wearing Nike Dunks and being taken to like golf tournaments, and they thought that they were the shit because they were going to Nike golf tournaments and stuff like that. And they were basically just treating them a little bit, and it kind of like, and then they were just like, nah, not so into this Adio or DVS or Osiris, like all the core brands started to really eat it at that time.
How many pairs of Adios did you sell in your time there then?
I mean, hundreds of thousands of pairs over the period. So I think I probably hold the dubious title of the person who worked with Adio the longest. I mean, obviously in the States they call it Adio, but I spoke to Jeremy Ray about this.
Big up Jeremy Ray.
He is the raddest dude. He was so
Get him on the show for us.
I could always message him. I think I've spoken to him once or twice.
Might as well.
But he's the man. And he said, I was talking about how it's like effectively mispronounced here in the UK, and he said that effectively it should be pronounced Adio, and they've taken it from a baby book name, like Chris Miller and those guys that found it in a baby book name. And then when they were getting phone calls from stores saying, hey, you started this brand Audio, they were like, oh, yeah, it was Audio. And then obviously that worked brilliantly with like Rock Audio, all the involvement with like bands like CKY and him and all that kind of stuff. So that's how it ended up becoming Audio.
Nice.
Yeah. Where was I going with that?
You said you never sold to Shoe. You never went to like a big chain store like that.
Never ever did chain stores. Always kept it as core as I possibly could, and could have made, many times more money if I put it into like Soul Trader, Shoe, and all those kind of stuff.
But you think by doing that, the core stores would have taken everything out?
I didn't want to make the core stores sad. Which is mental when you think about it, because then once they got into Nike, all of the core brands were just
dropped you in a flash.
Yeah, they didn't think
they were like, bye.
They didn't think, oh, we don't want to make Nick sad.
They did not.
So we're not going to get Nike.
Yeah, exactly.
Because Nick will be sad.
I was sad, and so was Matt Law with the Cyrus, and so was like everyone. Like it was like Sam was doing DVS and Lakai. Like everyone saw this downtrend, so we all had to take on like extra brands. So I was doing like Mighty Healthy, Macbeth shoes.
I used to love them. They were always in like
the rocker
they were always in the little goth shops.
Yeah.
Macbeths.
And Neff, Element. I actually did Unabomber for Snakes, so they were doing bump distribution, and so I did Unabomber for Snakes and Element for Route 1, which was through TKC at the time. So hilariously, I was working for like doing some stuff for Route 1 and Rollersnakes at the same time. Where is that going?
Don't know, what were we talking about?
You asked him how many shoes he'd sold in his time at
Adio.
Right, okay. So
because it was known in the industry, you did very well out of it.
Yeah.
Everyone was kind of jealous that they didn't have Adio.
Yeah, so I was lucky in that there'd been this this kind of like upswelling of interest in the brand. I was originally started out with the Midlands, crushed it in the Midlands, and then was given the whole of the UK to deal with over time. There was an agent in Scotland, and eventually they passed on it, and so I just had the lot. And so I was able to get on. I took on a couple of sub-agents. There was Nick Marker, who does Prime down in Plymouth. Yeah, super rad dude. And my brother Mark, he was doing some stuff for me. And then my mate Rob Nelson as well. So I had some sub-agents on the go. We sold an awful lot of shoes to core stores. Yeah. Then when it started to really peter out, it really started to eat shit really fast. Yeah. And I was at my brother's wedding in Australia, and I could already tell things were going wrong because we'd gone from 75 employees in the States down to 10 employees, and they were rattling around in the office. I could tell something was up. And then I was in Australia for my brother's wedding, and I was reading the Slack forums, which is always a mistake.
It's a mistake, but I check it once a day.
I do. And like, I'm normally like, I just feel like my brain's been polluted by just random bullshit. Like, so much of it is like, you read it and you're like, I know that is definitely wrong. Like, you know, it's
just all speculation, isn't it?
There is occasionally a nugget of truth. And one of these nuggets of truth was that Adio had gone bust. Hadn't gone bust. What had happened is K2 had been sold to Jardine Group, who in turn were bought by someone else. And during all these shift arounds, K2 Sports as a whole became smaller and smaller and smaller. So that included like Ride and K2 Snowboards as well. So for some reason Adio was in the winter sports part of it.
Okay.
And that just kind of got it for a company of that size, Jardine's size, it was meaningless to them. They were just like, oh, it's like a few tens of millions. So like, we'll just get rid of it. And so what they'd actually done is they shut down all operations through K2, and then they took the decision to license it. And they licensed it to a New York company called ALNS. And so whilst I'm over in Australia, I am phoning up everyone I can possibly think of, trying to get contacts. I think it was Ed Dominic, who did 88 Footwear, and he was a photographer. Like, he was Adio team manager at the time, and he told me there was Rick Mina, who was an ex-CEO from Foot Locker, and a dude called Jim Strausser, who was he was going to be the president of Adio, and his background was that he'd bought Converse for $3 million with a bunch of guys, and then they sold it for $300 million to Nike. Nice. So he really knew his shit. So they'd taken on these two guys who really knew what they were doing, and ALNS as a licensee then started to produce these brilliant shoes, because Jim had gone to his team riders and gone, well, what do you need out of shoes? Oh my God, you're riding Volk shoes, but you're having to put 2 inner soles in them because of the impact. That's mental. And you've got you need something for primos in here. So with this guy, they designed these shoes. I forget the name of the dude. He's been around for a long time, and he did etc. with Ronnie Krieger. I've forgotten his name. You basically ended up with these shoes that they called SST shoes, and they had a primo pad in the middle. They had a really shock absorbent inner sole. These were brilliant shoes and really high quality. K2 no longer distributed the brand over here, so I had to find it a new home. And I found it a home at Ultrasport with a guy called Gordon Way, who's only over in Castle Donington. And he agreed to distribute it. And so we got in this first lot of shoes, and they were pretty amazing. And I was like, this is actually, the brand's coming back. This is good quality stuff.
What year was this?
I'm going to say 2010. Okay. 2009, 2010.
So the whole Bam boom and everything had passed over from...
Bam boom has been and gone. We've done all the heartogram stuff. We've kind of crushed it with that. All that stuff, incidentally, is what paid for all our super legit stuff of taking the team on tour to Gran Canaria and Tenerife. I think that's something that people...
Because he would have been phasing out at that time, surely, with all of the other...
He was.
celebrity stuff. So money coming from his popularity as well could at least be pumped back into the core skateboarders on Adio that were still putting out footage and videos.
Yeah, see, a lot of people don't realise that's how it works.
Yeah, they don't realise that, like, basically all your DC Court graphics and your any Kingpins and your Heartogram Bams and whatever, that stuff to the core skater sucks. Like, we're not going to skate it, but that is what sells to the wider public. That is what funds skate teams, skate tours, all that kind of stuff. It's the wider public buying into skateboarding. That's what funds
core skateboarding.
Yeah, because core skateboarders, we all have a mate. We all have someone who can hook us up with a discount and all that kind of stuff. No one is making any money off the core skaters.
Yeah,
right?
Core doesn't really pay the bills.
It doesn't.
Unfortunately,
sadly, yeah. But like, but that's also cool because we're core skaters and we've always been like that. But you just have to accept that, like, it's an odd situation where you get the core guys are really pushing in a certain direction of this is what we want out of skateboarding. This is what we want it to look like, but skateboarding actually needs to be a much wider, broader thing. And you know, and you get like the kid in the store going, "Oh, you only want to buy those Nike Dunks. You don't want to buy those Adios or those DVS or something like that." Suddenly, you're shrinking how many people are making money out of skateboarding. And it was a perfect example of what happened. It's like basically all of those. There's about 20 big skate companies, like your DVSs and the Kais and your Adios and Cyrus and Globe and blah blah blah. They all probably employed roughly, I don't know, 50 to 100 employees each.
Yeah.
And then there's all the mags, because the mags are getting filled with their adverts and all that kind of stuff.
Double page spreads.
You've got all those jobs. Then you've got all the stores out there. And then Nike came in with an amazing marketing plan, absolutely crushed it and did a good job. And admittedly, at the time, the skate brands were a little bit asleep at the wheel because they'd had like 5 or 6 or 10 years of doing really, really well unopposed. And so some of it was getting a little bit sloppy, I'd say. So Nike comes in with its great organization and its huge marketing
flips
power.
The script on it a bit.
And if you think about it, they're only trying to market to skateboarders through their product. They're not trying to make money out of those products. What they're actually making money out of is all the running shoes and their gym shoes.
The golf, kind of the basketball, the football.
But if you're not on skateboarders' shoes, you're on feet, you're effectively losing that audience as they grew up. So they come into it as probably largely a marketing thing. I don't know. Someone might turn around and say, hey, actually, they do it because it makes really good money. But I don't think it does. Like, compared to their larger business, it's probably not worth their while. So they've come in, doing a great job. All the brands fall away. Now, you're then losing thousands of jobs, and all those guys who are working at Adio and stuff, you phone them up, how are you doing? Oh, I'm really struggling to work. Or I started working in a winery or whatever, you know, like it was a boom and bust cycle, and that happens as well. And you can't lay it all at the door of Nike, and they have admittedly brought standards up. But I think it's disingenuous to say, well, it's great because they pay, you know, some really good wages, when all of these other companies were paying really good wages. They're paying for advertising. If you only have one Nike advert in a magazine, you've not got enough advertisers. So it really shrunk the industry, and the amount of jobs available in the industry have definitely taken a massive hit, I think. And I did a talk with Chris Lawton from Skateboard GB about how to do keeping jobs in the industry, basically. And the thing we came to was it needs to be a more circular economy. So instead of people effectively buying out to all these corporates and all that money disappearing because they're not employing 75 skateboarders, they've got 5 skateboarders who are making it legit, and then all the back office stuff is done elsewhere. Yeah. So if you keep it as a circular economy, so you're buying into brands and shops that are actually employing skateboarders, you're going to keep money in skateboarding and actually make that product better. And they can, so like Soltec's perfect example. Like, I love Soltec product because they're all skateboarders, they're investing in skateboarding, and that's what they care about. So I'm going to back them all the way because they're keeping money in skateboarding.
So what you're saying is fuck Nike?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not something we've ever stopped.
So we got to the point where you were talking about the new shoes came in and they were looking good.
Yeah, you're over the hill at Adio. 2010, new shoes came in, new
shoes came in and they were looking great. They were really good. Over here we had Will Golding was still riding for us.
Yeah.
I think Alex Halford was, and Mark Burrows from Scotland. Shout out to Mark, he's a man.
Big up.
Oh my god, you should get him on. He is such a great dude.
Yeah.
So
I don't think I've ever met him.
You haven't met Mark?
No, I don't think so.
You know, because he has such an impact. Like he uplifts a sesh so much.
Is he?
He is like.
I need that on my sesh then.
Yeah.
You do, don't you?
I need that.
Yeah. So we've got the SST stuff going on. Everything's good, and then suddenly, boom, everything stops. And AL&S had decided, no, we're not going to make this good stuff that K2 wants us to make. We're going to take Adio completely downstream. So at this point, they had maybe 3 shoes, a techie looking one, and then basically 2 Vans rip-offs, like an Era or Authentic or something like that. And they had this one called the Sydney. And turns out that this is what AL&S were really good at, was making really cheap shoes for big companies like Payless and stuff. So they're shipping tens of thousands of pairs to these really down market sort of like shoe places. So I can't sell these to skate shops anymore. They were appalling. I couldn't give them to the team. They had quite often you'll notice on some shoes they have this stuff called flocking on them, which is almost fuzzy and it's slippery, and it's the reason why you got that on the shoe is so that you pay less duties when it goes through customs. So great for paying less for the shoes, really bad for skateboarding in. So these shoes were absolute turd, and they cost $3 to land in the US. Made in China, they landed in the States for $3. So they're really, really cheap. And they were making the same shoe for Levi's as well. Mm-hmm. So I was like, what am I going to do with this? And I thought, I'm going to sell them to TK Maxx.
Perfect.
Yeah. So I called up the guys.
They'll take any old shit.
Yeah, indeed. So I phoned those guys up, and because they had taken clearance from us in the past.
Yeah.
And I was like, would you be interested in doing these shoes? And they were like, yeah. So I met like the dude. Like,
did you have to try and sell it or anything? Like,
yeah,
they're really good. They look at the team. It's bad.
A little bit. So I drove to, I think it was Northampton. The dude would always take his meetings in the lobby of the Hilton Hotel there for some reason. And
probably knocking off someone on the side.
Something was got a bit bizarre, but it was like weird that they didn't have an office. But I was going there, and he was like, right, I want that one, and that one, and I'll take 10,000 of each. And I was like, oh, that's 30,000 pairs of shoes. That's a lot. That's going to fill up several containers. And we were buying them for something like $8 and selling them to them for £10. So still super cheap, but with that sort of volume, like the margin, and like I did that for about 2 years, and I probably made more money off Adio in that situation. And they were like, hey, where else do you sell this stuff? And I was like, Route 1 Rollersnakes and shoe, which I'd never sold. But they were like, okay, that's fine, that just seals off our paperwork. And they were done, and I think they sold through them great. But like, I was like, man, the quality of these is just sucky. Surely they're all going to come back.
Did he give you a size break for each shoe at that stage? Was he like, I want 1,000 of that?
They were really weird. They'd send over like dozens of separate POs. So maybe they were going to different warehouses, or I'm not sure what they were, and I'd have to add them all together and then process it and send it off, and then it would we'd bring them in from China into Ultra Sport. The guys there would put it together. And what I'd also done is in 2011 I'd got my ass out to the States to meet Jim and talked to him about what was going on, because I was always just wanted the best for the brand. And then when I kind of realized what was going on, he was just like, hey, they've got rid of me as well, but they've given me the international sales agency. Do you want to do that for me? Because I'm not really going to do it. So that meant that I was effectively like not an international sales manager, but like I had the sales agency for the whole of the world. Which is hilarious.
So you could go to all the TK Maxxes in Europe.
So I was like dealing
They're called
with
TJ Maxx
in
the States.
TJ
yeah,
Maxx.
Which I find really bizarre.
Yeah, I don't know why.
TJ Maxx. I was
TJ
like, oh,
sounds more American.
Yeah, I think you're right.
But I remember seeing it in the street, and I was like, oh, a TJ. TJ.
So did you do the same again? Go to all the TK Maxx buyers in Europe?
No. So what I did is I just dealt with like distributors. Now all these guys, like South America, like these are the original Adio distributors in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
And so they were feeling the same pain of having this like amazing brand that was so awesome.
It's
like
gone to shit.
Kenny and Ed Salego and Ray, and then suddenly it's poop. But they could still see there was like a business opportunity. Nils from 24/7 in Germany.
I know that guy.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah.
They're like what Shiner used to be like with like all the brands ever. Like they're the German. I think they're involved with Titus as well. I think they have the shops. So I was dealing with like the Brazilians and like New Zealanders, Australians, like all these guys, and they were placing these orders. They were never that massive, but like they were. I think we in the UK we were making the most of this kind of like situation, and I would get like 2% commission on all international sales. So if I brought some into the UK, I got commission from Ultrasport for those sales, but I would also get commission from Jim for those sales. So I was making
residual
double
commission. Yeah.
So that was awesome. It was really unstable at the time. I was like kind of like making good money occasionally, and also kind of shitting myself that I didn't have anything sorted at the time. Like, so it was weird. Loads of free time, loads of time to go skate, and then kind of these really, really intense high pressure meetings with like the TK Maxx guys, because if they turned around and was like no, I'd be like, oh, no money for me. So it was kind of like, it was like I made good money at that point without feeling the benefits of it, because I was always like, when's it going to stop, or is this the last one?
The door can close at any time.
Yeah.
And when did that happen? What was the process?
And at its peak of Adio, if you don't mind going into it, 'cause me and Toby love the finance side.
Yeah.
How much would you say overall you would have made?
What was your best year
from
at
Adio? Yeah, what was your best?
Come on, Nick Warman. Everyone wants to know.
Nick Warman.
The industry has been asking for this. Come on, Nick Warman.
Nick Warman.
It's not that crazy. It's not that crazy. Like when you kind of like, because you're gonna do it over a peak, so you're gonna have certain years where you absolutely smash it, and then other years that are really quite normal. So I often wonder this myself: if I'd just been in like a normal, steady paying job, would I've actually over my lifetime earned basically the same amount? But you get these huge peaks and troughs. So I'd say probably 130 grand was probably like my biggest year, and that's why I say like that could have been like double, triple that if I'd put it into those big stores. But no, I was supporting the core, which it is what it is. I don't mind at all.
Yeah.
It's been an interesting process of kind of realization how business works. Like you come into it like super idealistic. I'm just gonna.
And you have to give a little bit.
Yeah. Like, and I want to support these guys. I'm not going to ever deal with these guys because these guys are the worst. And then you're like, oh my God, if I'd been selling all this stuff to Shoe, I could have taken the team on multiple tours during the year. And like we could have gone to the States instead of going to the Canaries in January when it was cheaper. All that kind of stuff. Like, so it's interesting, kind of like it's a learning process. But I was only in my early 20s when I was doing all this stuff. Like,
yeah.
Hi, it's Toby here, your mum's favourite presenter from the Brain Drain Show. I'm here to talk to you about Rollersnakes, and I've got an absolutely fantastic double-digit discount code to give you, so stay tuned. Rollersnakes was founded in 1985 by Sir Paul Haynes, which makes it one of the UK's oldest skater-owned stores. Rollersnakes stocks all the shit-hot brands, including Adidas, Brixton, Carhartt, DC, Element, Independent, Levi's, New Balance, Palace, Polar, Santa Cruz, Spitfire, Thrasher, Volcom and Vans, and many, many more. At Rollersnakes, there is a free-to-use indoor skate park, indoor mini-ramp, and outdoor skate park, which I designed, and it's really good, and everyone loves it, and if you don't, then you suck, don't come here. We also put on numerous events throughout the year where you can turn up for free and win loads of prizes. Rollersnakes have given us a discount code for Brain Drain listeners. Enter BrainDrain10 at checkout for 10% off your next order. Minimum spend £30, terms and conditions apply. Go to rollersnakes.co.uk and buy all of your stuff and things immediately, if not sooner. Tell your mum stop texting me. Over and out. Goodbye.
I think it was like 25 when I did the Adio tour that everyone remembers.
I want to talk about that. So Tony Hawk dissed you, didn't he, on TonyHawk.com. Let's talk about that first, but then let's go back after that into the tour.
I was funny, like, I didn't know if I was bummed about that or not. Probably a bit bummed. But he's a really interesting character because he was...
You got beef with the Birdman?
No, not at all. In fact, I just think he was like...
The Birdman's got beef with the Warman.
Yeah, I think it might have been that way around.
The Birdman don't want shit from the Warman.
I think being fairly clueless, like 24, 25-year-old at the time, like organising like a big tour like that.
It was big.
It was one of the biggest tours.
And I was so cool that I kind of made some fairly key mistakes. Like I was like, well, I think I always hear about how these guys get like absolutely rinsed and the distributor makes them do like multiple demos a day and all that kind of stuff. I'm not going to be that guy. I'm going to make sure we get a really good magazine article out of it.
Yeah.
And we're going to have like maybe 3 major stops. So I think we did London, Birmingham, Leeds. They were the big 3. And in between those days, we'll go to like Milton Keynes and skate the Buzzy and stuff like that. And so we can do like some really legit like course street skating and stuff like that.
Tick a couple of boxes all at the same time.
And then the guys won't be bummed at me because I've given them an easy ride, and they'll be like, yeah, the UK guy was cool. And turns out you probably shouldn't run it like that, like because like what happens is if you give them this dead time, they do fuck all. And so we ended up in a situation where like the magazine article was looking really thin, and like towards the end of the tour we were like, I had to have a word with like Jeff Taylor, team manager, and be like, can we just get the guys to get some street shots out and stuff, like because what they were doing was like staying in the hotel as late as they possibly could, and then they come out, maybe like do the demo and then disappear again, hand me a receipt for like Kenny Anderson and Danny Montoya decided they didn't want to eat with everyone else and they disappeared off, and came back, handed me like an £85, which was obviously quite a lot, like 20 years ago, £85 receipt for swordfish, which I was like, oh, okay, I'll give them cash for that. I thought it was quite funny. They were kind of like, they were used to a kind of like a higher rolling kind of like experience. Yeah. And like, I'm like all core. And then the K2 guys, we got this phone call from the States and they were like, you need to get a rock star bus for Tony. Tony's coming. You need a rock star bus so he can bed down and sleep and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, that sounds good. How are we going to afford that? Like, and because we had like a 10 grand budget for the whole thing.
So 10 grand budget.
So we got the 10 grand budget, and we're supposed to get a Rockstar bus, and we're told we need to make sure we got 4-star hotels at least. So no travel lodge scumming it with this. Like this needs to be done properly. And you know, fair enough, but that sucked up a lot of the budget. And so I was expecting this big old bus, and K2 had decided they were going to book that stuff, and this little Mercedes bus pitches up. It was like a real basic bus, and there's you got all the team. Bam didn't come. Like if he was going to come, he was just going to fly in himself and then do his own thing. He was like a free agent. But you had like Jeremy Ray, Ed Slago, Kenny Anderson,
Montoya
was he was there. So like the whole like kind of Ryan Bobier, he was there as well. And then Tony had decided that he wanted to bring his son Riley, who was teeny tiny at the time. I can't remember if it was 8 or 10 or something like that. And then because Riley wanted to bring his mate, so his mate was coming as well. So he was also relatively decent at skating, but so we ended up with all these guys over, we were thin on the ground for the article. But the reason why I say Hawk, he dissed me bad times.
What did he say?
Basically, we'd had a situation where we'd been skating at Birmingham Creations. I think it was called Creation at the time. Skating at that skate park for absolute ages. And the guys were all still skating. All the pros were still into it. So I don't think we left till 11 or 12. So that's super late. And I should have been thinking, I've got to get these guys to Leeds. But I only thought that would be like 2 or 3 hour journey. It was not 2 or 3 hour journey because the road was shut and we had to take all these crazy back routes. So we got to that hotel at 5 a.m. and I don't think he was too stoked on that. Because he'd have been used to these big Rockstar buses. He could have slept on it. So he's had a rough night. And I have to say, when he hit those demos, he was just the most incredible professional, just on it straight into nose blunts and all that kind of stuff. He was absolutely phenomenal. So with hindsight, he needed that Rockstar bus to put out that level, and we utterly failed. So I suffered a diss on TonyHawk.com.
Maybe we can upload this clip, tag Hawk, and see if we can get you two to be friends again.
See if he'll forgive me for my
Hawk, come over on the podcast and tell us your experience.
He was kind of I felt like he was a little bit bummed to be on the trip, but then he would turn it on when the camera's he was amazing.
Yeah, he's a true professional.
Absolutely. But he said the reason why he'd come over on the tour was to show Riley England. And I was thinking, poor Riley's seen a car park in Sheffield. He's seen the Buzzy in Milton Keynes.
Yeah, glorious.
The favourite thing that happened though was they needed to leave early. So Damon Street, who was the sales manager for K2, he gave Tony a lift to the airport with Riley and his mate. A few days later, he's like, man, car absolutely reeks. What is going on? It stinks in here. And he has a look round and he's like, and then he finds, forced between the seats in the back, Riley had a tuna sandwich and he'd foisted it like a kid would. He obviously didn't like it and foisted it down in between these kind of cushions in the car.
What a little bastard.
I know what's come back.
Riley Hawk, jeez.
Riley,
really
sort your shit
rude.
out.
Can I just...
I was just going to ask kind of what happened when Bam and Hawk left Adio. So I remember reading stuff they wanted more money, but Adio wouldn't pay it or couldn't pay it.
I don't think they could at that time, so I think it was kind of on the down cycle.
It was a money thing.
And
they must have sold a lot of shoes, though. I mean, Bam, that shoe.
This V1 was absolute king of it, but then there was the Bam V3 that he had a bunch of others that, the Dark Light and a number of them.
I had the Dark Light shoes.
Did you? But this one was really the
Black
one, and it was the most kind of iconic and easy to recognize.
How many pairs do you think Bam sold overall for a season with that shoe?
Well, I don't know about Bam, but I do remember being told, so I'm not going to say this is fact, but I was told by the international sales manager at Adio years ago that Kenny Anderson, his V1, which was the most amazing shoe with that really well-shaped toe box, they sold something they sold enough so that he made something in the order of $700,000. I don't know if that's true, but that was for the first season of sales.
Oh, really?
So he was able to buy houses, and he was really smart with what he's
invested his money into things. Hopefully.
Apparently, so I'm told.
Yeah.
Yeah. So God knows what Bam was selling, but I remember we had this guy coming over. We had it in this color, and we had it in black red as well. And I told Paul here that I'd snagged an extra 2,000 pairs in a container, and he was just like, I'll take them all. No discount, nothing.
Yeah, we'll have them.
Just had the lot. So all 2,000 pairs, I think it was like a 65 grand order. Like, just straight off the bat, and obviously absolutely flew through them. So when there's demand for skate goods, they can absolutely crush it.
Yeah. Funny times, isn't it? I mean, that Kenny shoe, that did really well.
It was around for such a long time. It was just so solid.
Yeah.
Just like, well, which colorways?
And it lasted a long time. It was just a really good shoe.
Yeah.
Can you talk to us about your IBS nearly leading to Kenny Anderson and getting run over, please?
Yes, I can.
And you nearly shitting yourself.
Yes. So
I've
heard that you can actually get an IBS sufferer's card.
Yeah.
You can just wave it and just go straight into whatever.
I need one of those then.
Sounds good.
Because sometimes it just pops up.
No, what you need, and this is going to change your life, is psyllium tablets. So that's soluble fiber. You don't want insoluble because you turn your turds into rocks, and that is a sad time for your butthole. Soluble fiber, and everything just calms down. Everything's like clockwork.
So has that sorted yours out?
Yeah. So it's not something I suffer with, but back in the day.
The day of shitting.
Right, I'm gonna have to have a quick sip because this is a brutal story.
This is a what story?
Brutal. He's shaking. Story. Look, yeah. IBS is coming back.
Just the memory of it. So I've got myself over to the States at a sales meeting. I've got my friend Rob with me, who's doing the sub-agency stuff. So he was doing down south, like Natterjacks and places like that.
Yeah.
So we're over there, and we're sat in this sales meeting. And because I'm doing well out of Adio, I'm paying attention. There's all the Italians in the back making shit tons of noise, and like the Americans going, "What price did you say?" And the other, $80. And they're just like fucking, just like, oh god, it was just like, it's a weird atmosphere. And they had like, I'm also super stressed because I know that Adio's on the downward slope, and I want to know why. What are they doing to sort it out?
Yeah.
As it turns out, fucking nothing. They're not doing sorting out the clueless. So they had Pepsis, full sugar Pepsis, which is not for someone with IBS, and licorice, red licorice candies.
Yeah.
These are not for me. I'm not supposed to eat this kind of stuff. However, I do. So whilst I'm sat at this meeting, bored out of my mind, but also stressed, I'm consuming this Pepsi. I'm having these twists. And at the end of the meeting, go outside, stomach's already a little bit roily. I'm talking to an ex-pro skater. I can't remember who it is, but he has been tasked with running Planet Earth Clothing, which was Adio's sister company. And is currently brilliant brand, sucking up all of Adio's money. Like, so, because everyone thinks that their brand can be the next Quicksilver.
Yeah.
So it happened the same with Matix and DVS. Like these clothing brands were just sucking up all the profits from the shoe companies. Anyway, he's asking me why I think Planet Earth's not doing so great, and since I'm relatively opinionated and I've spent time and thought about this, can't remember what I said, but I'm giving him like what I think is going on. And in the States, they have this thing called the like ugly baby syndrome, which is you've got to tell them something negative whilst being positive, which is really fucking hard. But it's how they roll over there. They don't take criticism well. You can't be negative. So I'm like pussyfooting around trying to talk about how, like, you know, we could improve Planet Earth, certainly in the UK. And I'm getting tenser and tenser and tenser, and like as I'm talking to him, just trying not to offend him, but also trying to get across my point, because we could do really well with this brand. I just feel my stomach knotting. And with IBS, what it's doing is you have what's termed a spastic colon. And what that does is it effectively just spazzes out, sucks in all the water and flushes it all out your ass. That is what's happening. So it's not diarrhea, it's a gut reflex, and out it goes. So that's what you're contending with. So I turned to Rob, who's just walking past. I was like, Rob, get the hire car. We gotta fucking go now. We are out of here. Like, I need a private toilet. I'm not doing this in a public toilet somewhere where people can hear the misery that I'm about to experience. We are out of here, back to the hotel. So we rush back to the rush back to the car, jump in the car, start heading out. Traffic lights, stomach convulsing more and more and more.
It's getting worse when the lights
worse
are red.
and worse and worse, and it comes in waves. Bit further along, stuck at traffic lights again. Then hotel's in sight, and at this point, every muscle in my body is going, get out, get out. Everything's trying to force out of me, and my poor little butthole's going, no, you mustn't. Hold on to it. And I'm like fantasizing. I could go and shit up there. I could go and shit up there. Like I've got to do it.
I've had that loads. Like shit anywhere.
Yeah. Or just consign myself to just crapping myself in the car
shit
next to
shit.
Poor Rob. Poor Rob's just like, oh my god, this is so stressful. Like, so we nearly at the hotel. I could see the hotel. Ding, 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 ding. Great big one of those freight trains is coming. Fucking just gunned it straight under the barriers. Like my ass was not going to take that time. Get to the hotel. I leap out into the foyer, rush into that bathroom. Maids are in there cleaning it. Shit. Into the elevator. Waves, pain. Right, get up into it. I got into the room and I thought, fuck it, I've made it this long. Then I went and grabbed a Transworld, sat, and just let the world empty out of me. And that was the end of it. But I just dumped the car. I just jumped out the car. And Rob had an awesome golden Golf GTI, like an F-registered one or something like that. And it was like a proper classic with like the manual and everything. He'd never driven an automatic, and they're all autos in the States. And he gets in this car and he's like, I've got to park this thing. It's massive, like it was some kind of Chrysler.
Yeah. And
so he like lurches into gear and starts shooting Fords. And to his horror, realizes this other. I texted. I thought it was like actually Kenny was walking across. He wasn't. He was in the car with his entire family.
Oh shit.
So and he just barely missed crashing into poor old Kenny, and it was my fault and my IBS that nearly took Kenny out.
Was he there for the sales meeting as well then?
They would bring down the team
and he brought his whole family.
Hey, check out the team, and the team would be just kind of like, these weird distributor guys, and just kind of stay away from everyone. So I always wondered why they bothered doing that. It was kind of like
you have that sometimes, don't you? It's like the talent mixing with the office, like the business side of things. It doesn't really work.
No, especially because they're skating. They're brilliant at skating, but they know fuck all about anything else.
Yes, trying to talk to them about anything other than skating.
Like I always want to say to them, right, okay, you're getting a pro shoe, which is increasingly rare these days. You're getting a pro shoe. So why do you not go, let's make this the greatest, most commercial shoe ever. This is what's going to sell. Yeah. I'm going to make a shit ton of money off this. My career's not going to last forever. And then I can actually leave it with some money instead of having to go into some poo job after living a rock star lifestyle, having to go into some crappy job.
Working in the distro or the office or something.
Yeah, if you're lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah. So because you have no experience, you're absolutely useless as an employee. So like, let's make some money. But so time and again, you'll get these pro shoes and you just be like, well, that's either more of the same or genuinely like so niche and kooky that you're going to sell like a few hundred pairs. You might not even hit minimums. I never understand why the pros do that to themselves. Like, just work with a designer, go, what's worked in the past? Let's do a great classic shoe and make some money off it. Stores would be stoked because they'd actually be able to sell the brand. The brand would be stoked. They'd be stoked. Instead, they're like kind of in their own head about what's cool in there. I'd say is it our generation or generation a couple of years above us really fucked skateboarding, because what they did is they were massive stars, and they were people you could like base like looks off, like the Chad Musker look, like the Jamie Thomas look,
the Bam look,
all that stuff. These were big dudes, and then they kind of completely occluded the next generation.
Yeah.
So the next generation didn't get the shine they needed. They were never built up. I think the photographers were probably the same age as those big stars, like your Mike Carrolls and people like that. So that cohort grew up together and kept on taking photos together. And you saw it because skateboarding changed from being like hammers to flat banks, like for a while. And whilst that happened,
hammers to flat banks with Nick Warman.
Yeah, but you ended up in a situation where that generation below, which I'd say is probably like P-Rod's generation, very few stars broke out of that, and now it's even worse. Like, you're really struggling to find people that you could like literally like hang like skateboarding off. Like, there's people who skate and they're amazing at it, like the best they've ever been, but you don't get those same people like Natters, like
Andrew Reynolds, people like that. Generation to generation, they're still
you're going to struggle to find that at the moment, and that is like partially because there's dilution.
Yeah, the only one that I think might, and he sort of teeters on being a little bit too good, is that Dylan Jeb guy.
Yeah,
I love him. He's probably my favourite skateboarder.
But there's so many other really good skaters that I think that there's, I mean, the amount of shit that comes out every day on the internet.
That's the thing. Much. I don't think there's like a unique selling point for a lot of skateboarders now.
No,
because you see so much of it.
No, I mean,
and like, the characters in skateboarding as well. Like,
that's what
again,
you need as a
like
character.
The Bam.
And it was broadcasting. Like, how do you broadcast that character when there's all the streams of information, like with like this, all the different social media channels and YouTube and people running their own stuff, and it's just like spread super wide. Whereas like in the past, you had like Sidewalk, Thrasher, Transworld, 411, and it streamed the information. So all skateboarders got that information, and so you could create stars. And I think that's definitely an issue, and that it'll probably work itself out in the end. But you know,
don't know how it's gonna.
I mean, Yuto's probably won. But
I guess
is that
Yuto,
because of like partly because he was amazing at the Olympics, but mainly because he's just like an awesome skater, does mad tricks, and then he's kind of got like a cool style to him. He's got cool style on the board. What he wears is pretty cool,
and he can do 540s paddless on vert.
But there is another problem in that. In that like the distributors need to change how they import goods and how they sell product over here.
How do they need to do that, Nick?
Well,
all the distributors are watching.
For a start, you've got a problem with air freighting from the States.
Because that costs a fortune.
Yes. You need to get it in decent time, but ships take about,
6 weeks.
6 weeks, something like that.
Yeah.
But you also got to look at where these products are being made. Like, so you can get them made in Europe under license. If you can get the Americans to trust you, you can get it made under license in Europe and then bring it into the UK, and then you're not paying crazy because the Americans are paying duties as it comes into them, and then it's duties again back out. And it's multiplying up the cost through the network. And when you're talking about something like decks, where there are really great decks over here in Europe, or soft goods, like which is just transmitting the graphic via email and then printing it, you can do really good quality stuff, and we would be paying closer to what the consumer in America is paying, instead of everyone's got to make their 40%. And it just jacks up the price. And what they've started doing recently is reducing the margin for the retailer. And if you reduce that margin, it makes it harder for those retailers to pay the distributor, because they've got to sell more of the product before they can pay that bill. So it kind of goes round and round, and it's getting to a point where it really needs looking at, because you've got all these boards that are being sold for like the old stock from COVID is being sold at £30. When that is all gone, boards are up to £80-90, and people are going to have a hell of a shock.
I bought the board I was talking about earlier that I almost focused.
Yeah.
Even that at cost price was like a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy shit, imagine if you're paying full whack for this.
Can you imagine that? Yeah.
Mental. I get what you're saying with that, and, manufacturing stuff in Europe, but it's kind of, it reminds me of that story with Reynolds. He was saying like, but if you were to then buy a baker board, which is made in Europe, it's not a baker board because it's not the same as what they're riding out of generator bareback in America. Yeah. And that's why they don't want to change it. I mean, I get that.
That's logical, but other than people like us who are super core people who like on the Slack forums and stuff like that, who are going to be really nerdy about the wood they're riding. Most people aren't. So I think most people are not that bothered, and they're not that good that they're going to notice the difference necessarily. But like boards from like Quarter in Germany, they're really good.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So
yeah, HLC
I
and Quarter, it's all really good stuff.
I only started looking into wood shops when I started working here, because every other skate shop I worked in, I wasn't in the position to even care or look at what was coming from.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's only now because the odd person will come in and be like, what board have you got that isn't Heroin or Baker on BBS wood? But even with stuff like that, like, I've never cared about it.
No,
not that much.
Some people are more fussy about the wood.
I'm pretty fussy when it comes.
I am now. Like
you ride the VX decks, don't you? You've been on that a while.
Absolutely brilliant. And the only problem I'd say with them,
too thin.
No, once you've used them, you are not going to want to use a normal board again.
Because, that's good then, isn't it? They're doing something different.
Well, that's great, because they're doing a board that is worth spending that much, and they have gone up a lot. But like, they're creating a board that's got actual proprietary technology in, like, and it's not all weird. It's just like a really great board. But it makes it a cut above the rest. So you're like, okay, I can justify paying more for that because I know it's going to last for absolute age. It's not going to break, and it's going to keep its pop.
Yeah,
brilliant board. But like when you're trying to charge like I don't think you should really, like 80-90 pounds for like a basic popsicle that's got like the latest cool guy graphic on, you can't justify that. And if you snapped it as a kid, you'd be so bummed. You just spent £90 on a board and you snap it just as easy as the one that's cost you 45 from, I don't know, like Death are only 45 quid now. But they're amazing.
And my argument with that is being someone who I always ride the same wood shop, like BBS. The pop you get from that, and the stiffness, and how long it keeps that pop, even when the tail is razored, it's still hard and poppy.
Yeah.
To me, that's worth it.
Yeah.
And like, I need all the help I can get. So if I have something that's consistent, and I know I don't have to start fucking about buying all this other shit and trying it, so I stick to that.
So what you get to is like, who's the actual board brand? Like, because you're talking about you want BBS wood, but you've not actually said, I want this brand or this brand. It just needs to be BBS.
Yeah, I normally deluxe because that's easier for us to get hold of.
Fair enough.
So it'll be real or anti-hero, or crooked. But
you start to ask the question like, well, the wood shops are making these boards. What are the board companies? They're marketing companies, effectively. They're graphicking up. Like, that's basically it. Unless they're doing something like a VX or a flight board or something like that.
It's just the same through many, many brands.
It is. And like, I think people maybe need to delineate that better. So if you're saying that BBS is really awesome wood and it's going to keep its pop for ages, that needs to be kind of like promoted on that.
Well, I remember
product.
When I was working with I5 and when DGK was on BBS, and they never promoted it or anything. And when I found out, I was like, that is one of your biggest selling points right there.
Yeah.
People asked for that wood. Why are you not telling people? And Adam was like, big up Adam. I love him. He's the best. But, he was like, we don't want to let people know. But it's like, but that's the selling point.
Yeah,
that's the best selling point. People love that shit.
Yeah, it's weird.
They know it for that wood. They don't, that's the thing. And it was at that point to them, it was... But big up those guys. They're the best.
It's funny, really, because people don't really talk about like what the nerdier of us will talk about who's pressed this board and all that kind of stuff. But most people don't really
give a fuck.
Talk about.
Yeah, I know.
At all.
Kids don't, do they? That's. I mean, that you can see that in what boards we sell. Like you can come to Snakes and you can buy like an enough blank for I don't know, 20 quid or something. And they're not bad boards, really.
Yeah, well, back in the day, it was big spin boards, wasn't it?
Yeah, big spin blanks. Brian Lottie's thing. And
so we went through a whole phase of blanks. In fact, on my world's most disappointing new blood, I'm riding a red red blank board.
Yeah. That was the time, wasn't it? The blanks were the thing, and they were cheap. And at that time, I mean, you'd go through a board pretty quick. They'd snap all the time.
Yeah.
And you wanted the cheapest thing. It was mini logo or big spin blanks, and that was it, But anyway, what other shit pisses you off about the industry, Nick? Get it out, come on. Who's pissing you off right now?
It annoys me, but it's I get annoyed, but at the same time, it's kind of why we do quite well. Like, the industry is so badly organized. It's a fucking shit show from start to finish. Like, and then there's lots of half-assery goes on, but then on top of that, you have like world situations. Like at the moment, like you had the Ukraine war. Now you've got like the Red Sea situation with COVID. You had like delays into ports, and that causes big problems. Then you get like stock that you should have received in February isn't coming through till like May or June and stuff like that, and it piles on top. And then they'll try and deliver your summer and your spring basically at the same time, and then you still need to pay for it in the same sort of time frame.
And no consideration for that not being ideal for you.
You end up in a situation where you're understocked in certain situations, overstocked in others, and it really fucks with cash flow. So that's problematic. The disorganization is problematic, but if you are organized as a person and as a company, you can do quite well because of that, because you can kind of work your way through it and take advantages of situations. So yeah, disorganization, massive pain in the ass, half-assing catalogs. Ooh, that makes me really mad.
Just shit PDF with line drawings.
So I hate to get all
for stuff that is expensive.
All back in the day, but you're now in a situation. So me or Sam or you get our asses on the road with our sample bag, go and show people shit, and they would know exactly what it looks like. They'd have it in their hands, they feel it, touch it, and they knew what they were getting. And now we'll get an email from some companies. You'll get an email saying, the new season's up on the B2B, place your order. And you're like, what? So we don't even get even a rep. You just get an email, and then you're going to spend, I don't know, 30 grand, 40 grand on stuff that you've never seen. And there's a damn good chance that it's not even a photo. If photo is bad enough, because you're not necessarily going to see the materials, you're not going to see the shades and the colors, so it can come through quite differently.
And often does.
It often does, because they'll make changes afterwards. But what's worse is when you'll get clothing or shoes, and it's a fucking cartoon. It's like a drawing, a line drawing, like a placeholder, or just a big red X with no image, and you're like, well, I imagine that shoe will be awesome in that colorway, but so you're basically buying off cartoons. And then, they're like, so how's sell-through? And you're like, well, it sucks because the product that you sent us is different from what, I don't know, we imagined, because we couldn't even see it.
How do you think it's got to this stage, though? Is it through laziness, or is it through
people trying to churn loads of shit?
Well, not having the manpower, the
you've
skills.
You've not got the manpower, and when you were selling a shit load of stuff, you could afford to put a dude on the road with a van and go and visit everyone and put him up in hotels whilst he's out on tour and all that kind of stuff.
So it's a sign of the times that things aren't good.
I assume that the distributors can't afford that. I think that must be what's going on. But you find yourself you wonder why aren't the reps getting out there? They can send a shitload of emails. So I think partly it's been the cost of having a dude out on the road. That's expensive. And then the other thing is the advent of email, not the advent of email, it's been around forever, but being able to send large PDFs and all that kind of stuff. And that kind of crept in more and more. So people moved away from visiting you and phone calls where you could phone up and go, hey, was that selling?
Yeah, what's going on?
What happened this weekend? Did you sell a lot of that? Do you need a replan? That, no one's bothering doing that. Yeah. And now it's got to a
Actually,
point.
no. There is, sorry to interrupt. There's one person who does that with me.
Okay.
Smithy of Form.
Oh, yeah.
He's
totally.
always,
he
always fires me emails like, you're missing this. Yeah. Great. Let him do it because...
Yeah. So that, because he'll...
Big up Smithy.
Yeah, man. He'll get in touch and he'll be like,
And he does it in a way that doesn't make me think he's a cunt.
Yeah, they'll just be like, you need these extra insoles sold through on the weekend. Yeah. Awesome. Stock us up, because then we'll keep selling. We don't need to focus on it.
Exactly.
But I'll open up my laptop in the morning, and just a shitload of emails will spill through. This fucking grip tape, these wheels, these rails or whatever, like just really minor shit. Each one is separate. Yeah. Now, if someone called me and was like, "Hey, we've got this, doing really well. How about this?" And like, I'll literally go to meetings and I'll be like extracting from the rep, what sells, what can I buy more of?
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing loads of that I can buy? And like, as long as they're not gatekeeping that brand, because they might be like, nah, not for you guys. You're not cool enough, or we want to just do it with End, or like, something totally non-skate, whatever. But you'll just be like, look through all those emails. You'll be like, nope. Just delete. But if someone called you and discussed stuff, you'll be selling so much more. So it's a weird, like, it's
catch-22, I guess.
So the cost of getting people out on the road, and then everyone's so tied up with sending like emails that we'll delete.
MailChimp must be doing all right out of it.
Yeah. So I think there's a lot of missed opportunities.
I think there's a fine line balancing between it. I mean, this is probably going to be really fucking boring for anyone who's not in the industry.
Yeah.
But I do miss that side of things. Like people coming and showing you shit.
Yeah.
And going through like what's been working, hanging out in the shop.
Yeah.
Seeing what's happening.
Taking you for something to eat. When a sales rep
that'd be nice. Yeah.
When a sales rep would turn up and like...
Yeah, let's go and get some Gregs.
Like when Leo would turn up to Ledge when I worked with Tim. And Tim would be like, right, close the shop for 30 minutes. Leo's going to take us for something to eat.
That was when Leo was working with DC, wasn't it? So that was DC money,
And Leo as well, props to Leo. He'd be like, what shoes do you like? And you'd be like, what, for the shop? He's like, no, for you, because I'll send you a pair of each. And you'd be like, those three. 2 days later, they're there.
Yeah. I mean, right. I think a lot of that, that
you can't get a sticker out of a rep now.
No, but then,
you don't see a rep now.
Well, the thing is, they'd probably be air freighting the stickers in, so they're 4 times the price of what they should be.
Yeah, well, when we're talking about one person I have to give like full props to, like Nick Baker from Etnies.
Yeah.
He's a man, like he's like old school. He gets out, comes to see us.
Yeah, he always comes to see
us. The Sal Barbiers that coming out
looks rad.
Ooh, they look really good.
Yeah,
better than when they did them with S.
I think it'd be nicer if Nick sent us all a pair each. So.
Oh, that'd be nice.
Yeah.
Nick, if you're listening, can you send us all a pair of Sal Barbiers? I'm a size 9.5.
I'm a UK 8 sample size.
You're a UK. Nick,
what are you? UK 9.
UK 9. There we go.
In the brown ones, kind of like the brown. Sorry.
Yeah. Shall we get off the subject of what fires you up in the industry?
No, it's not that fires me up. It's just like what you're saying. That I think there is a lack of personalisation now, and the communication is lacking sometimes.
The distros have got stuck into this loop, and like I can sit there as I've been on distribution and the retail side, so like I can be a little bit like, oh, why the hell don't you do it this way? And they will have reasons why they can't change certain things,
and that's understandable.
And that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
But like the model that Shiner have with Santa Cruz clothing, I think works really well. Like the licensee do it over here, keep the prices really good. Stuff sells great.
Imagine if Thrasher was licensed over here.
Imagine Thrasher was licensed over here. Apparently those dudes just aren't interested.
Not having it.
Because I was like, Creature as well, man. Creature's rad.
Yeah.
Like, but they haven't got around to that one.
You're not blue.
Is that because you're a mosher? You like Creature?
I don't know why I like Creature. It's weird. I've always been kind of described as like a bit upriver. I think this is what Jason Dill would call it.
Off-piste. Let's give people who are watching this and listening to this a bit of context though. So you started Supereight.
When?
2013?
2015. So it's 9 years old. Started it with Sam Coleshaw.
Sam, yeah.
So Sam is my friend of 28 years. We've been skating together all that time. And he did DVS and Lakai.
Yeah.
4-Star, Enjoy, all sorts of stuff.
That's where I know that name from then.
Yeah, so he did all kinds of brands. And we were just talking all the time, sales agency stuff's getting harder and harder. Hang on, why are we selling to other retailers when we could maybe do it ourselves?
Yeah.
Like we know the industry.
Yeah. We know the industry, we know all the contacts. Let's do this ourselves. And so
who to avoid in the industry.
Yeah, so we set it up. behind the bins of an Indian restaurant. There's a Bombay restaurant opposite Trent Bridge Cricket Ground, and you go down this alleyway, and there was this dude who'd been doing a sunglasses brand out of there, and we were just going to sort of like rent a little bit of space. And the day we moved in there, he was like, "Yeah, I'm out of here. Bye. This is all yours." And it was basically like a converted garage, which were really, really shonky floors. Like you could like bounce up and down, and our stock would go like that. So we set up there in this garage. There's mold on the walls and all that kind of stuff. The landlord, who was a big cricket fan, would sit in his car with the diesel engine running straight into our window, smoking cigars, listening to the cricket that was in fact happening just down the road. It was just baffling. So he was like smoking away. Then he got gangrene or something in his legs, had both of his legs cut off, reappears in a wheelchair, and they convert the downstairs bit of the garage that he was using as storage into like a little maisonette for him to live in. So he's under there, and we can hear all sorts of loud sort of like cricket noise, obviously, and he's smoking his cigars, and it's coming up into our stock. It was a nightmare. So like we were like, we got to move on. We totally outgrown it. And we had like loads of like storage units at this place called Magenta, which was the other side of the River Trent. And we were having to go back and forth there. We found out there was some open office space, you know, when there was that open office boom, and everyone was like, we're going to make millions out of like getting random self-employed people to go to an office, which is just mental. Why would you do that? So we took over that office space, and we moved out of the bins behind the restaurant, and it came up in the news about a month later, and it had been taken on by a swingers club, painted entirely purple.
Nice.
And it was called the Purple Mamba, and it's like I think maybe the only swinging club in.
What do you mean you think? You know about this stuff, Nick. Don't be so...
Well, yeah, steep learning curve, right? So anyway, they put these guys, they had a picture of inside, and they kind of put plants in the way of the mold and all that kind of stuff. And then they'd got like those kind of like inflatable jacuzzis in the upstairs. Now, those floorboards could barely take our like little racks from IKEA with DC stock on them. And they've got massive pools in there now, so I think there's some kind of like sexy fatality about to happen.
How has it been with Supereight?
It's been pretty good. To be honest, we've grown a lot. A lot.
Because your unit's massive. I didn't expect it when I turned up.
It's
a massive unit.
Because we know
very well organised too.
Yeah, I think that's the key. Is like I'm relatively well organised, but also quite lazy. Sam is not lazy, works really fucking hard, and is very, very systems driven. So by being organised, we've been able to kind of like cut a niche for ourselves in the industry, because we know footwear inside out, and that was what we focused on first. We really built up like people coming to know us for footwear, especially for like reissues like the Musker and stuff like that, because I'm super into it. So that's what I'm going to buy, and that's how we've built up, and now we're in the lovely countryside.
Nice place you got with the mini ramp there as well.
That was that was a 40th birthday present to me. Like I was like, this is for marketing, but for me.
Technically, it's getting its marketing out of it though. When people
it's great. I mean, when you guys brought through the Heathen guys, and they shredded
and just
it.
Before that, you had the Carve Wicked guys or DC.
It was the DC guys. Yeah. They crushed it, and we had like our own team. We had like Josh Mason and Joe Hill. They came through, and they were amazing on it. I
just wanted to find out if you were ever planning to do a physical store out of Supereight. Or are you more than happy doing what you're doing?
Well, we always look at it. It's always something we do, but I would never want to do it in Nottingham. Like if 42 exists, you don't want to never go in there. Like there's always been more than one store in Nottingham, so you could quite legitimately have another one, and it would actually make it better.
But it becomes that thing, doesn't it? As where would I put a store where it's got a thriving scene that's going to support the store?
Yeah.
Like where in the UK could I?
I mean, there's lots of cities these days that are wide open. Like, I'm going to say cities, and then people are going to be like, "Oh no, we exist there now."
Yeah.
But like, I don't know, like Leicester.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oxford.
Yeah.
Since SS20's gone, there might be some small stores, but like, you know,
Leicester's got that magic toast store, but it's fucking ramble.
Yeah. Obviously Nottingham's got 42, which is an amazing job.
Yeah.
So they're pretty sorted, but they always used to be 3 stores at least. Like,
I think there was 4 in Leicester at one point.
Yeah,
there was the Magic Toast Casino, Rollersnakes, 2 Seasons.
Yeah.
They all stocked. If it was skateboarding or not, it all had hardware, soft goods in it.
Yeah.
4 stores, and 3 of those are on the same road.
You look at it, but you look at the economics of it, and you're like, holy shit! Like, staff are expensive now. When I worked at Rollersnakes, they were inexpensive. There were 6 members of staff because we cost like 23 quid a day. You know, like, so you could, and the product was pretty much the same price as it is now. And if you took 2% inflation for the last 30 years, skate product should actually be
way more.
Yeah, way more, like 150 quid. Like,
we've spoken about this a lot of times.
Yeah. So you've got much higher wage bills, which is great, but in comparison to the cost of our product, it's much, much lower.
Yeah.
So what was your question? Are you going to open up a Supereight store?
So what I'm getting to is, if the situation was right and it was convenient, because bear in mind I'm lazy, so the idea of like having to travel far to manage a store sounds like no fun to me.
So you need someone you can trust there.
You need someone you could trust.
You need someone who is.
Are you talking about
yourself
here, boy?
Not at all. But what I'm saying is, there's a lot more goes into it than you think. It's not as easy as just going. There's a city. I'm shopping there. There you go.
I'm sorry. Just saying, we'll open a shop here. We'll get the local skaters. They're fucking shit.
None of them are
none
of them
you
can
can trust them, but are they actually worth?
I mean, like all these things, there's so many costs in it. So you've got like exorbitant rents because like the landlords, who are probably insurance companies, need to make a shit ton of money off it and don't care if it's rented or not. But when it is rented, they're going to charge a lot. Councils want their pound of flesh, which is a lot of money. Then you got like the electricity, then you got the wages, then you got the security company, then you got to fill it with stock, blah blah blah. Then
you get your computer systems up and running.
Then you've got to have footfall, so you've got to have enough people walking past that are going to go, this looks interesting, so I'm going to go in there. Like, so you can't be in a B grade location because no one will see it. Mm-hmm. So there's an awful lot to it. I think Rob at 42 has put himself, he's in a great position. Like,
shops in such an ideal location.
Everything makes sense. So you're like, right, that makes sense. So I think we'd be mental to open a physical store at the moment when footfall in cities is poor.
Yeah.
Cities are kind of a bit lost at the moment. They don't really know what they're doing.
A lot of cities in the UK are just absolute dives.
Yeah, I don't.
That's the problem. Like, you go into them and you're just like,
they're building all this shit around it, but they're not putting any. It seems like they're not putting actually any money into the grass.
Yeah.
What's the word?
Grassroots
stuff.
I mean,
there.
It'd be lovely to have a store because, like, basically you can do a lot of marketing through it. Like, it becomes a base for people. They can come through. So there's a lot of advantages. You get offered product from the brands who want to really promote the shit out of their latest, coolest stuff. They want you to have a store, and that makes perfect sense. But for us currently, it doesn't make sense. And like I said, I'd never want to tread on 42 stores. So that's,
And just a quick one before we get off that. The name Supereight, where did that come from?
Supereight was originally, Sam had, he's always been very, very techy. He did an IT course at uni.
Yeah.
And he had created, at the time, a video aggregator which would pull like all sorts of the skate YouTube videos in and basically create like I think like Callus and Deerdeck did something similar. And it basically was a skate video aggregator. And Supereight, like I remember actually him talking to me about it as I was driving to like probably see TK Maxx or something, and he was saying, like Supereight is like, we're super into like skate videos and stuff. Supereight's this amazing format, and so that's where it's come from. Like, so, and then we ran with that.
And then just to end on, can we have the sober person's perspective on Craig Smedley punching Chris Oliver?
Yes, what an unfortunate event, which I find myself in the centre of, despite never ever like. I'm the kind of guy who's like, so we're going out tonight. I'm like, no, if there's tea and biscuits, I'm there. So,
what's your favourite biscuit?
Oh, Bourbon's. Bourbon's straight off the bat. Good one,
isn't it? Yeah, Bourbon's good. Chocolate hobnobs.
An excellent choice.
Yeah, they're the two I think that
maybe dark chocolate, dark chocolate digestive. Hey, buddy!
I just turn around. There's a dog here. There's Rudy. What's up, Rudy? He's like, what the fuck is going on? Sorry, yeah, go on.
So anyway, socialising and boozing is not really.
I am listening. I'm just going to take a photo.
Not really my thing. No. And I was like, this was the first year of doing Adio, and I'd taken Craig to, I think maybe the event was called the UBI or something like that. I struggle to remember what the event was, but we were told to go there for Adio and everything. And I'd filmed Craig at NAS that year as well. Like he'd skated in that competition, he'd done really well.
And that footage is in his equilibrium.
It is, yeah, doing like switch frontside flips over hips with cars in the middle and stuff, like, yeah. And in a shiny t-shirty kind of thing that I designed and had made on Microsoft Paintbrush, and then took it to the designers at in town. So I've been getting all this footage of Craig, and ended up getting a bit of footage of Snowy and Chris Oliver just by the by, because I was just kind of like on that course. And somehow we ended up going, I was encouraged to go out. I was told you need to go out and meet people and stuff like that by like the guys from K2. So
we get told that all the time, especially Toby. You need to be outside and meet
go
people.
Go out and
but
meet people.
Who cares?
Yeah, I really didn't want to go. So but anyway.
Everyone's a cunt.
They are bastards. And we went to this nightclub, and there was like Craig's recollection was really quite accurate. Stu Graham was indeed pouring vodka down people's throat with a like water pistol kind of thing. Like that was pretty intense. There was a lot of booze flying around, and I ended up sat for some reason with Chris Oliver and Snowy, some other dude, and I didn't know what to say, because like I was just like it's like some sponsored dudes. Like I saw some guy had written it up on the UK forum. It was really interesting seeing it from his point of view, because he'd been one of the London skaters, and he said, and like some guy, I think it was Ian Passmore. It wasn't Ian Passmore. I don't know why this keeps coming. It was definitely me. This happened to me. And
big up Ian Passmore.
I think it's because he was a filmer from the.
He listens to the show.
He was a filmer from the area as well.
Yeah.
Like, so he's been falsely accused of this. Anyway,
Ian, get me out there living your lifestyle, please.
Yeah, he's living a good life.
I don't know what to say to these guys, and so I was just like, I've got some good footage of you last weekend at NAS. Like, I think I was probably going to angle towards like, do you mind if I use it for like an Icon video or whatever? But he just turned around and he went, and he was only 16 at the time, and he turned around and he went, well, did you wank over it? And I went, let's see how this situation is going to go. I'm off. And so I just wandered off to the bar to get a drink, and Craig came up to me, and I was like, I had a really weird interaction with Chris Oliver. Like told him about the footage I've got, and he was like, asked me if I wanted to wank over it, and I was like, no. And Craig was just gone, just fucking vanished, and I was like, oh, I wonder what's going on. Suddenly, I turn around, and he's back. And you got this group of London skaters, and it wasn't called Tyrone, he was called Terence. And he very pleasantly explained to me that what happened to Chris might have been deserved, might not have been, but we'd basically disrespected one of his like London skaters, and because they were the London crew and we were out of towners, they were going to have to beat us up. And my response was, or we could just leave. So I grabbed the Smed. I haven't called him the Smed in this.
The Smed.
But yeah, grabbed him. I was like, let's get out of here. There was another dude with us, Pat Murier, who was the snowboard agent. I was like, Pat, we got to get out of here. These dudes are going to beat us up, because Craig smacked Chris Oliver for asking me if I wank over his footage, which is still a very odd question. But so we bundle out of the club, and there's just all these, sorry, but there was super sketchy dudes all the way along offering to sell you drugs, or a taxi ride, like a taxi. It wasn't a taxi, it wasn't an Uber, because Uber didn't exist. It was literally a dude with a car. And so I was like, this seems really risky, but fuck it, we've got to leave now and get back to our cozy Premier Inn or wherever. So say, yeah, please, can you take us to whatever spot? And I jump in the taxi, and I'm in the front, Pat and Craig are in the back, and we start driving, and I'm just talking to this dude the whole time, just to try and like assess, like, is he totally legit? Which he totally was. Mm-hmm. He just was going to take, but I didn't know if he was just going to drive us around the corner and mug us. Like, it was just such a bizarre situation to, like, me from Nottingham being in London. I had no idea what was going on. Anyway, kept talking to this guy to make sure he's on the up and up and everything. And like the Smed who'd like gone in, created this fucking destruction, fast asleep, absolutely fast asleep. And he slept his way through it and woke up in the morning, and that was that. And then somehow I feel this story has become not legendary, but it's floated around a bit, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's been
there was enough people who were involved and saw it.
But they've made up since, so it's all good.
They made up since, yeah. So it was fine.
Is there anything else you want to talk about, or should we?
I think we could probably go for a round 2 in the future.
Yeah, I think there's more. I think there's a lot more we could go out with this, but we're kind of up against it.
We'll talk about the industry a bit more, and maybe Schrodinger's board, which is either worth thousands or not very much at all.
When you say not very much at all, what do you think it could be worth, the lowest low ball?
I think it would still be worth probably $1,000 or something.
Yeah, I was going to say,
I don't think want it.
But if anyone out there knows, write in the comments how much you're going to buy that board for.
They'll be baffled, though, because it's been done with chicken scratch. So Chicken from Screaming Squeegees, who did all the World Industry stuff. The story goes that he would do that chicken scratch on blank boards, and then graphics that he wanted to save, he would then screen it at the end of a run. Yeah. So that was from the first ever run of Plan B boards. Like, so it was like the hottest shit at the time. And I mean, like, just like the how vivid this is, and it's like 30 years old, more than 30 years old.
How did you get it?
It was an eBay purchase about 15 or so years ago, and it came all the way from Australia. And like, he'd obviously got it from, like, apparently like Chicken was like kind of clearing out what he had, but it became this huge debate of like, okay, well, fine, but is it on the exact wood? Because he's done it just after. And if he's done it just after, did he do it just after in 1991, which is what it's supposed to have done, or did it happen later?
Yeah.
And this Skull and Bones forum went mental trying to work it out, and there were people talking about like really forensic things, like looking into how old the ink was and stuff, like, because there's probably about 12 boards, like so there's like a Danny Way, Dennis the Menace, and then there's like the Chicken Skull, Jason Lee. So there's a few different ones, but they're out there, and I think it's kind of like that. It was also on the Disposable forum. They had that book. They had a forum for a while, and it was all discussed there. But everyone got really bent out of shape, and like, well, it could have been from 2003, could have been from 91. Who knows?
My gut feeling looking at it is that the ply makeup is too thick for a board that early.
They were talking about that it might have been pressed by BBC instead of World, and he'd used a BBC blank and then screened on top of that.
Yeah.
So it's weird because I'm never going to sell it. I don't care. It's just a fascinating story that it's like either worth loads or nothing.
And also, Plan B boards, the majority of them had a coloured top stain.
Yes, yeah, like
which
dark grey.
Which also makes me think,
yeah,
that's maybe not. But I mean, fucking rad, no matter what.
Yeah.
Anyway, we could go and geek off fucking hours, can we? Should we wrap it up?
Yeah, I think that was pretty spot on.
Do you want to look into the camera and say who you are and you've been watching the Brain Drain show, please, Mr. Warman?
I am Nick Warman, and you've been watching The Brain Drain.
Thanks very much.
Right, let's go import some Adio shoes.